virtually every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols.
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimilla, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn, and I got a full studio today. I got a full packed.
Tons of people.
I got Bryan from Green Farms here. He's going to be talking all sorts of talk about Buffaloam and about, which you've all heard of before, but now we're on a new chapter. Chapter of Buffaloam. You're working with Normal. You're working with all sorts. I'll let him explain when we get him on. When we get him on in a minute.
Sure.
We got KTI in the studio.
Yo.
And we got MTI all sick. He's on quarantine over there. No one's allowed to be anywhere near him. It's highly contagious. Are you not? Are you bad?
Well, no.
You don't sound bad.
It's allergies.
Oh, how do you can't catch allergies?
Yeah, allergies sounds in the middle of winter too.
Well, I'm not sure if it's allergies, but I think it is. So.
You think you don't? You new allergies you never had? You're a gluten guy or something? What's going on?
I think it's just seasonal.
Yeah, gluten.
Seasonal allergies.
Sounds like gluten to me.
But I took some medicine before I came here.
I would blame that. Blame the gluten, bro. That's what everybody does these days. It's all about that. And also we got Veronica Carpio coming in later to talk about this bill, which I don't have the number in front of me. HB 18-1.
258675.
No, I almost had it. It was 8. Now you screwed me up. HB 18-8776 or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. Another one of these long-winded, but it's basically a CBD bill. They're trying to come, and it's, we're going to hear her side. I mean, I've heard other sides too. I think right now it's one of those deals where, people are like, well, just do any deal as long as it's a deal.
Nope.
But sometimes, as we all know, the first deal is not always the best deal, and I usually not. It's usually there's always a wiggle room there. So we're gonna have to talk to her and get an angle on that. I think Cheesecake might call in. She's about to open up a new spot, a new restaurant on Sunday.
Where at?
Cheesecake. I don't know.
Wait, cheesecake spot?
Wherever the Cheesecake lady's at is
Is
where
that the Fillmore, Red Rocks?
right.
That's where
on lot. Definitely going to be on lot. They're building a restaurant on lot now, getting ready for the season. That would be dope. But no. So hopefully she'll call in. We'll get the detail. I'm going to text her so she can give it some hype space there.
Absolutely.
And let's see what else we got. I got T's out there. My buddy T. He might roll in. Who knows? We'll see. He's just more. He's more hanging out. And how was your week, KTI?
Well, it was good. It snowed in the mountains.
Finally, Jesus Christ!
About damn time,
What kind of winter has this been? It was like the worst winter ever for you guys, huh?
Like the third.
Third worst ever.
It's the third, at least in the old timers, their memory. They're like, oh, there's that time in the 70s and then the 90s, and then this is the worst.
Sure.
So it's good.
I'm just gonna blame gluten.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Pretty much.
Or onions.
It's a gluten winter. It's a gluten winter, guys. That's what's going down.
Yeah. And then Saw 2 went down, saw the whole hemp and works.
You saw 2?
Yeah, Saw 2.
How is it hemping down there?
It's good. Him and Tim are just working away, getting the hemp and getting
Not
the new crop
drinking as
ready.
much? Or?
No, yeah, they're definitely toning it down.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they got their more focus. They got a whole pig, so they had a whole pig. They slaughtered it up.
I saw that. I was really
Yeah, we went over to some guy's house. I love it. You just walk in the back. It's a nondescript building with a whole butcher shop in there, and he just wipes his hand off and gives me a shake. And it's like, cool, man. So we had good pork chops that night. We ate really well. So he's down there.
You see me, you see me getting really like.
Oh, I know you don't care.
Disgusted.
This is more Bryan. That's what I was like. I'm going to talk with Bryan about this one over here. So
Anyway, to each his own, guys. Have fun. Anyway, I slaughtered a pumpkin or something the other day. Slaughtered it.
Yeah. What for? Make cake?
Soup.
Pie? Soup? Oh, soup's good.
There you go. Slaughtered.
Yeah.
Disgusting. It was tore out its inside. It's like
let it drip and everything.
Oh yeah, totally. Hang it upside down and let it drip. Yeah, we did it all.
Quartered it.
So should we let's just do the sponsors, get that out of the way since we have such a long-winded show coming up, obviously, since it's not, anytime I talk, it's a long-winded show, right? Pretty much so.
Well, 3 hours is soon.
Let's start right out of the gate with New Millennium. You ever use New Millennium?
I have not. No.
Then you're no good to me right now.
He's no telling. Jeremy's the guy. He's the
Oh, perfect. That's it.
Build a soil.
Good answer. Good answer. See, that's you'll. Wait, we'll get you on the Jeremy section there. But for those guys who can't wait around for no-till situations, and/or if you're just on a large-scale commercial operation and you really need something that's thought out well and going to give you some great flavors, good terp count, all that, and at the same time, be efficient. And efficiency is the key with New Millennium. Everything's seasonally based, makes it really easy. If you know what season you're in, then you should know what formula you're going to be using at that time. They have a really good website with a calculator built in, so you can kind of figure out how much you would need for your particular crop. You can also work with some of the products standalone, no problem, as far as like the Ruby Fulvic is really good. The Winter Frost is dope. Can try those, and if you got your own program and you add that to it and you see you see an improvement, maybe you just want to switch to the entire line. Go to newmillenniumnutrients.com, check them out, and obviously tell them that Adam Dunn Show sent you, and you'll get super special treatment as always. Probably just won't ever send you your shit, right? Be like,
no, they're punctual about it. They're good.
No, they are. They're very good.
They're really good. Aaron calling on them.
And over at Inner Buddies Incredibles. Best edibles here in Colorado, also extracts, top notch. If you ever see the name Incredibles, you pretty much know you're getting the real deal. They got a whole line of wellness products now, which is dope. And they also have, including bath salts, but not those.
Not the good bath salts. Not the
bad. Yeah, the good face-eating ones. Yeah, the ones that make you...
The Florida ones.
No, you won't be going for those ones. But they have a bunch of new CBD products, gummy bears, hard candies, microdosing ones. It's kind of their range is getting huge. You can go to iloveincredibles.com and look at the store finder, which includes Colorado. Do they have any other? Do they have the stores in California yet? No, that's going to get nuts. That map is going to be big map. Easier in Colorado and it's Denver.
It's big, giant.
One big. When you look at the map for Colorado, it literally looks just like someone just went. You can't even see the state anymore.
We carry them at our store too, so they're all over.
If they're not in your store sucks badly, obviously. Go to iloveincredibles.com and same deal. If you're ever talking to anybody from that company, you just say, I heard about you on the Adam Dunn Show, because then they won't kick you out, probably. Hopefully. They might drag you in the back room and get you high. Not at the shop, the next door. It'll be secret. You can't do it on site. Now, here's where Bryan can jump in. It's Jeremy Build a Soil, killing it for years here. One of the guys who's expanded his business because of the fact that everybody's now finally figured out that it just tastes better to grow organically. And if you're about flavors and you're about quality and you have patience and you want to take care of them and you don't want it to be just false hopes and broken dreams.
Look them in the eye and sell it to them.
Exactly. Right. Then you may want to be working with the guys from Build a Soil. You can go to buildasoil.com, or you can go to 855-877-SOIL and talk to maybe a human or maybe a machine. I don't know. You never know.
You go to Montrose too. Take the big drive out there.
Take the drive to Montrose.
It's beautiful out there.
It's a beautiful drive. If you want to go hand select out some products there and just hang out. The staff's super cool. Everyone knows what's going on. That's important in my opinion. So give them a shout. Talk to Jeremy. It's coming up. This is the big year. This is the big time of year for him. He must be going, oh man, time to make the donuts, right?
Yeah, and he's at all the expos too. So I don't know when that man sleeps. So. He's everywhere.
Oh, exactly. And it's like before, not so much, I don't know about now, but back in the day, it was like almost guaranteed. You called that number, it was him on the line, So you're like, this guy knows what's going on. And Ron Wallace. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Ron Wallace has just retired from his job, his real job. Like he worked at the golf course for guys, and Quinnesset Golf Course, which is like the local one from where I live. And it's funny because my grandfather also worked at fucking the same golf course. So it's pretty nuts. And that was years ago. But it's he's retired from that business, and now he's just got all his time in the world. So what would a guy like that do?
Grow pumpkins?
Probably, I would imagine. But you never know. He may just be like, fuck it, world tour. And, you never know. But good luck on all that. But if you want to get in touch with him, he's now can concentrate fully on his line of mycorrhizal products and rhizosphere-based stuff. And you can, there's another guy. If you want to get on the phone, talk to somebody and get some knowledge, or just listen to some of our old shows. This guy is one of those guys who's just so passionate about what he does, and he does it well, and it's great. The guys from his team are. One thing Ron has done is he's acquired all his awesome talent, like mathematicians and guys who are just like PK maniacs, and they sit there and break everything down. And so I got a chance to kind of work with those people in the near future. We're going to be doing some projects together, and it's like, wow, this is like having when you have people mathematically logging everything out, figuring out the entire project before it's ever been done, compared to like, just
the bro science.
totally bro it up over here, bro, and we could do that. And then, let's go do a bong hit. That is fun, but it is awesome to see people who take their job seriously. You can go to
Wallace Wow.
There you go. .com. WallaceWowWhat.com.
.com.
There you go. That helps. You got to at least.
Well, not .gov.
You never know, guys. It could be some new .pump, .pumpkin, .kin. They got their own thing, man. The Wallace Pumpkin guys have their own URL. You can go to check out Ron. Give him a heads up that you came from the show. He's actually loving it too, because a lot of weed guys, are coming to him now, and obviously we get all the credit, so it's great. It doesn't matter. A weed guy was for us. That guy came from me. But at the same time, it's inevitable that they would, because I think all growers, whenever they see those giant pumpkins, tomatoes, fucking squash, you're just like, even if everybody thinks oh no, bro, it's all about the terps. Everyone loves big buds, and everyone loves big fucking plants, and anything,
sure.
Alaskan Gigantosaurus monster, whatever. You're like, yes, I want to do that. So the best way to do it is to get in touch with them. And you could go to seedsherenow.com and pick up some beans, and then start the process to get those gigantic plants, or terpy whatevers. And on top of that, they're at the Canacon right now.
Yeah,
in Seattle. So if you're in Seattle and you happen to be at Canacon, just go up and say,
I think they're hiring, actually.
At the show?
Yeah,
because they need
I'm
work.
pretty sure they're hiring. Yeah, they're hiring in
Hey,
Hawaii.
if you need a job,
right,
you may want to
there.
head down and see the guys from Seeds Here Now. You can also, if you do want to order online from them, you can go to seedsherenow.com, or you can go to seedaholics.com, or just go to the one site and they'll link you to the other one, and that will get you to their auction site, the Seedaholics one, and then that one you can actually help on charities, last packs, lost packs, all the little treats that maybe could. Go start a seed company. Buy the last one of these, and then you're that guy. And I got the last of the last. That's all you need to do these days. As long as it's the last pack, you're allowed to just completely rape the shit out of it. That's how it seems.
That's how it works.
It is. If it's the second to last pack, no way, bro. That's not your work.
Right.
Oh, you got the last pack? I guess that's all you now. And you're the man. So keep looking for those ones. And again, ADS 420, I think, is our code. Did you ever? No, we never confirmed this.
No,
I tried to call James today, but we're going to make up our own code. It is now ADS 420, which is the most predictable code in the planet, right there. Pretty much. I think if that was our password, it wouldn't surprise me. And that's it. Booyah! We did it. We're all done. Well, soon one day we'll have more sponsors, right? Like you guys, bro. You need to sponsor the show now. That I tried to get fucking Buffaloam to sponsor this show for how long? I mean,
we had
those guys were hard ass. Those guys were pretty hard ass. I don't know how did the deal go down? Was it a long-winded negotiation?
To be honest, the first deal that went down, it was pretty interesting because it kind of fell apart at first.
Okay. Just stay close.
News to radio.
No, it's just good. You'll hear it on the thing. The closer you get, the better you sound. You're like, oh wow, I sound great. So
deeper, right?
Deeper, yes. Yeah. So I can imagine, because I had to negotiate my free soil out of them when I sold a bunch of soil to another person, and I was like kind of like making the numbers, and I was like, don't I get in? I should get a little more of that. It was one of those things. So I could see actually buying the company, it was probably been a back and forther.
It was pretty interesting.
Now, does that include the farm, or does that just is that like the actual thing up north? That's the huge. What is it, 3,000 acre or something like that?
Something like that. It does not include that deal, but we have basically the exclusive rights to the compost.
Okay, but those people are still making it there on the spot.
Correct.
Okay.
Everything is staying the same except for Joe. To be honest, I'm
right. Gotcha.
The hashtag we've been using is the No Joe, because I'm now in charge of that.
Right. And so what happens if a guy named Joe wants to get a job there? You guys going to be all like anti-Joe. You'll be like, you can't use your name here anymore because we've already got this tag, and then everyone's going to be confused why we hired again. Yeah,
I think we're done.
I used to just hire everybody with the same name. That was my thing. I had like 3 guys with the same name at one point, and I was like, all right, that's it. Everybody's going to have the same name because it's just way more convenient because we have no way to follow anything, and it's actually to our advantage. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you did talk to fucking Jim, right? And it's like, no, which Jim? But it wasn't Jim. I don't even can't tell a name. Secret. So, and then is that with the Green Farm, or is that part of the same thing?
Yeah.
And so, are you guys been using it? Have you been using it for a while beforehand, and continue to use it?
Yeah, I would say that was kind of our little secret blend there for a long time, is especially the Soil Alive, kind of drizzling that on top and getting the diverse.
Because one of the things I did notice with it is, like, the first time I used it, I was really impressed, and then I had a little bit of a hard time with it. I was like, it was like almost like the honeymoon deal, where the first time I was like, oh yeah, and I was super stoked, but it was just like, maybe because of the season, the time, what I was using it for. Then I tried to do an indoor run, and that was like a outdoor run, and everything was super smooth. Then I tried to do an indoor run, and it felt really weird all of a sudden. Like, I was like, wow, I'm having like phantom problems and stuff that I couldn't quite pinpoint. You know what I mean? Where I was like, I don't know, this pH seems like the pH is that really off? Because everything was like, like not looking happy. And it took me a while, and then once it ever gets kind of knocked back, it's a pain in the ass to ever get it 100% back on track, unless you like let it go way too long.
How were you growing in fabric pots? Or?
Fabric pots. Is that a problem, or
no? It was just
fabric pots, large. I mean, it was just like exactly where I thought it would, like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like very. I mean, it was just it was like when it went from one, it was looking good, and then it went into the other thing, and then it just like, and it was strange, and I was like, But it was also. I didn't want to overcorrect it, you know what I mean? Because that's also the problem. You're like, oh no, and then you start throwing in some dolomite or something and thinking you're gonna do it, and then if it goes wrong after that, then you're really at a fucking loss, But did you guys use it all indoors consistently, or?
I personally used everything in indoors. That's why I'm excited for this year with Green Farms to be able to grow hemp and all that kind of thing outdoors as well.
Right, and are they going to use Buffaloam?
Absolutely.
In the hemp?
On the fields itself, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And that was kind of what, I mean, that's great. That'll be phenomenal for that particular application. That's going to be great. And are you talking about using it as a, like you were saying, like a top dressing? Like a top dressing, yeah, exactly. And the line, I mean, they're actually, so you guys continue, so now you have all the contracts with the natural grocers and all the people that always still carry it?
Correct.
That's awesome, because that may maybe open up the door for other kind of, once people, because I mean, as much as we wish cannabis was really accepted, we do know it's not, because it's like you still don't see it where you think you should see it. But, a couple more years, maybe one more cycle, election cycle, we might get into that direction. But it's pretty awesome because it does open up all of those avenues, CBD products, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's pushing away too.
And right now, I don't even think Natural Grocers sells a lot of CBD, which is strange because you'd think they would. I mean, you go into aisles after aisles after aisles of vitamins and things. So it's basically Vitamin Cottage, and you're like, but I don't. I shop there all the time, and I don't think I've seen any CBD products.
The smaller ones I've seen them in, like.
Have you?
Yeah, no, the ones up where I live. I've seen it. They're behind the counter.
Behind the counter. See,
behind the counter.
Totally accepted. It's totally accepted. Behind the counter.
For a gram or whatever it is, No, it's definitely, and part of it is the price, I think, I mean, they're selling it for $100 a bottle or whatever it is, plus.
Well, that's ridiculous, too.
Well, that is
ridiculous. That Colorado based?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so too. But I noticed sometimes it comes from Austria, or God forbid, comes from China.
They've been selling in the hemp and the head shops as well too. All the CBD stuff. You can get straight up isolate and like wax and all that stuff.
That's usually the booth, though.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Really and
which one, the isolate? You mean, or
no? Just the head shop CBD.
Oh really?
I think what it is still cost prohibitive though. Anyone that
read
goes
the label.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, I wasn't buying it from there. I was just noticing that it was.
If anybody's listening, read the label. That's for sure.
No, I saw big signs for yesterday down on at that one on South Broadway. That's like the classic head shop style, where everything's just 8,000 colors or whatever, and it was just like one building was all CBD stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, here's this head shop, and then there's this other building all CBD, and same deal. I just said like every combination. I'm like, yeah, that's it's weird because the thing about hemp in general is when you talk hemp to me, I'm thinking industrial hemp. So I'm always like, oh, okay, hemp. Then you talk CBD. I mean, here CBD. So the Colorado has kind of like Colorado's done what like Soma did to sour diesel, by calling it fucking New York City diesel when there was already a diesel from New York, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, it wasn't from this, it was like, and it was popular in the city. So it's like, and now you have these two plants. One's a grapefruit purple 13-week plant, you know what I mean? That does nothing to, maybe it is genetically connected in some way because it came from seeds from a guy who brought it from New York to Soma. So it wasn't a cut, and said, this is the hot shit. This is sour diesel. And it's like Soma selected that, you know what I mean? So when you misrepresent something enough, people get used to it, and then all of a sudden, so now everybody says hemp, and you're like, what kind of hemp? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I need like 3,000 plants an acre. You're like, that's not hemp. You know what I mean? Hemp would be 1 million plants or more, a couple million plants on that acre. You know what I mean? So actually, it'd be like 30 pounds at, say, 30,000 seeds. It'd be about 1 million. Yeah, so it'd be about like 1 million plants compared to 3,000 plants. And
have you ever managed a field like that?
I haven't myself. I've been to them in Holland where we grew them, and that's like the guys from Hempflax. That's how because they're literally just thinking industrial.
Yeah, of course.
And the thing about it is there's no machinery in Colorado that could handle it. So if we did do it, we would send a combine in, and everybody would be like, this thing will work, don't you worry, and it would get like 20 feet in and just because that's what happened exactly. Even with the non-grown hemp stuff, like was just like it was like loose. But still trying to be dense, but it wasn't nearly enough because there was a lot of males, and then there was a lot of this pig grass growing up in it at Ryan Laughlin's farm, and he had like a converted tractor where he had like laid down this one blade thing, and exactly what happened. And we all watched it. We're like, okay, cool, and we're like 40 people out there, thinking that we're just going to go behind this thing and pick it up and then load it up on this truck, and then it broke, and then it was like, all right, we got to do this all by hand. It's like, fuck, you know what I mean? And you're looking at this, and it was only like a couple of acres, but it was loose. It wasn't really as dense as possible, but it took days, you know what I mean? And it was like, fuck. So until someone has the machinery, and that stuff costs like $1 million,
Yeah, it's
because it's like farmer shit.
Crazy.
It's farmer shit. Once you get into farmer shit, you're like, oh, you guys do what? Huh? That tractor is how much? That's like a Ferrari, dude. Like, that's a Ferrari tractor, and that's a fucking Lamborghini fucking, combine or whatever. Because the shit's all like $1 million sometimes.
And then the farmer actually drives a truck he's probably had for three decades or something like that.
Well, the bank owns all that machinery anyway. And that's the thing is in Colorado, nobody set up for that, so we can't really do that. So basically, everybody's still doing what they're doing, which is growing up 3,000 plants on an acre, which is still beautiful. I mean, it's not a bad thing at all. And it's awesome. But the weird part about it is if you look at a graph of how hemp's supposed to be divided, like normally seeds should be the biggest moneymaker. Like if you got like a field, the amount of, because you get like tonnage off of an acre, and then everybody, you start calculating, okay, the seed should be the most, the herd should be second, and the fiber should be third. And in Colorado, when you look at the chart, it's CBD obviously top over the top because that part never got brought into the picture because there's no other place that's really been thinking along that line. And then you got like the opposite, like where it's like fiber, herds, fiber, and then seeds because no one's growing for seed to sell except for people who are trying to make seeds to sell to other people to grow. We're not except for like Evo Hemp does their own little field. There's certain people doing it, but very small amounts. So it's like we're kind of like on a different mission here, And the CBD thing is cool, but it's crazy how quickly it's tanking, as far as like the value for money. Shut that door.
I think it's one of your phones.
One of your phones, not mine.
Okay. No,
it's not me, man.
Not me.
So what do you guys? So you guys are doing your first hemp field this year, or is this already? You guys already did it.
The first one under the Green Farms banner. Yeah.
CBD farm, I should say.
You want to say it that way?
Let's just call it a CBD. Let's just call it what it is. So you're growing your first CBD farm this year. And do you know the strains you're going to be doing?
I do not. We're still working on that with another gentleman up in Boulder.
So I looked into it recently, too, for a friend of mine because I was like, like right now it seems like a lot of people are going to grow C4. That seems to be the hot ticket right now.
Sure.
But again, the thing is when you're growing, when everybody's growing the same thing, you're back to that fucking deal where like, you know, I got a tray of clones and I give you everybody clones and then we all grow them the same time and then
whoever grows it the best.
And combination of whoever grows it the best and then the timing, like it's like if you're out first, but you can't be best if you're out first. So then you fuck the market up because you're out. Now I'm cutting out early. These guys are, you know, it's just like it turns into like a race. You know what I mean? Whereas if everybody like would grow from seed and look for cultivars, and the problem is it's taking a risk. You know what I mean? It's like you have to test everything and make sure it's not going over, and that becomes expensive. But it would be more beneficial for everybody because what we need here in Colorado are strains that work here, obviously, but then there's microclimates. You know what I mean? Like you're in Boulder, you're gonna have a different climate if you're in Pueblo, and vice versa. You know, and then out east different than out west, and so it's like. That I think we're still in that figuring it out stage. But there was a group out of Oregon called Oregon CBD Seeds. You ever heard of them?
Well, I have
not. Look them up because I was looking at their thing and I was like, damn. I mean, they looked beastly as far as you're like, that is like they had some super silver crosses and some other stuff that you were just like. Okay.
Is that the Adam Jacques? Am I pronouncing that correct?
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
No.
It's somebody else.
Yeah. Exactly, because none of the things seemed familiar. There was a few, but there was some pretty interesting looking things. But yeah, I think this is the year to kind of take as many things as you can find, and at least, I mean, you can't take the risk. I mean, you can't just like throw down, but you do, you know, whatever you're doing, you should also have a nice little mini plot next to it, and try to find the one because that's kind of, I mean, and again, at the same time, clones versus seeds, obviously not as good.
Right.
But guaranteed is better than getting fucking, you know, I mean,
especially always, at that level.
Yeah, there's so many trade-offs in the end. Tell me a little bit about the contest that you guys are doing next month.
So we are with Tom, Sticky Lungs on Instagram, and he's putting together the first Home Growers Cup. So it's kind of like for the people that maybe are usually not too excited to put their face on things and just kind of want to show off their talent. That's kind of who he's building this for, is for them to have an outlet and kind of, you know, everybody kind of wants to be judged in a way, right?
Everybody wants to be judged.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that first place gold trophy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like when we first did our cup in '93. I mean, and that was with iTimes, of course, so it was kind of like it was official, but it was still relatively small when you compared it to anything nowadays. You're looking at it, was like, you know, I think there was maybe like 16 entries total, and, you know, it was like 2 categories. Everything was just real simplified, but it was also like literally the magic that lit the fucking fuse because of the intimacy of the whole deal. It was like 200 people maybe total, like kind of involved, and so everybody knew everybody. Like by the end of that week, you met everybody and you knew everybody, and then the next year it went up to 850 people. So it was like that jumped that quick. And the 200 people there was only 50 from America the first year. There was 850 from America the next year. So it wasn't like, and then there was more people involved. But the first year was like, so it was 50 America, 150 from Europe, and it was kind of like the same. Where then later it was like 850 from there and like 2,000 from Europe. So it grew rapidly, you know. And I think, but then it also became less intimate, and people got a little bit more like, you started to hear the bitching after about the third year of like, I didn't get it. This ran out of this. Yeah, Holland is really weird because it's small, like tiny shops. Like this is the gray area right here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this is about as big as the gray area, and so imagine you have a line out the door and people looking and waiting and trying to buy weed, and it's just like it always, and it's cold out, it's raining. You know, there's like a million reasons why it was just fucking inconvenient. But people in the very beginning, 200, no problem, you can handle it all. But once it got to that 3,000, you had 3,000 people walking around Amsterdam with laminates on, going shop to shop, and you could spot them from a mile away. You know what I mean? And so the thing about here is that they don't have, I mean, you got to get on the looper bus. Like it's a different vibe. You got to get on the bus, and then you got to go from spot to spot, and it's hard to keep people. If you do like a crawl type thing, it's cool because it brings business to the shops. But because we don't have a fucking place to smoke it, you're kind of. I mean, that's like basically looper bus is the only way to go. Like, and it's like you'd have to have 9 of them or 10 or 20 of them to do a cup. You know what I mean? Because like otherwise everyone's waiting for the fucking looper bus. So it isn't really. They haven't come up with a system here yet.
It's kind of like what Dope Magazine did over the summer over there by Culture Garden Market. they had the Looper bus and a couple other buses, and it just doesn't have the same feel when
it's hard.
Yeah.
So how will this one be then? How many people are in this?
This one's at Cultivated Synergy. So yeah, that one everybody kind of knows what's up there.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many contestants?
I believe it's capped at 50, maybe a little. I believe
sounds really close to the ADSI. We're doing 52 because we're doing
52. Yeah,
exactly. That's our cap.
Where'd they come from? Where are you pulling these people from?
So Tom is in
basements,
charge of that.
bro. They're from the basements. Dragged out of the basements.
Now, to be fair, Tom knows a lot of people that it's not like just your average.
But is there any? But it's not. No shops are involved because you're not allowed to be involved. Obviously.
Right. No shops are involved.
Good. Okay.
It's just
some reps from some
really
shops.
Somebody's working at some shop. One of these contestants
secretly repping shops,
that.
And the winner.
Yeah, that's the way that works.
Well.
Maybe we could think of this as like the minor leagues. You know, like you gotta somebody could get their name out there that normally wasn't able to, or something like that.
What was the one in between, so we don't make them sound so lame? The minor league, and then you had something in between, and then you got to major
minor
league.
It's like triple A ball.
Yeah, we'll give you guys a triple A. How's that? You guys are on the. You're so close. You were so close.
Probably just if you want to work in the commercial.
And is it only weed, or is it hash weed, everything, or you have categories?
I believe it's just flower. Yeah, just judging flower. And again, this is just the first one, so he kind of wants to just keep it simple and.
Well, that's exactly what I just said. That's what you want to do. Keep it. It is it's. It's also one of those things where you're not unless you're trying to turn it into like a whole fucking. Because what happens is it turns into concerts and this and that, and then then people start thinking that like, well, I got to pay my artist, then I got to pay this, and then all your expenses go up through the roof, and then it's no longer about weed anymore,
Right.
And I think it's cool if you just kind of concentrate on the cannabis.
I think he's just trying to keep it of. The guys that normally would want to keep themselves private, they just kind of get to hang out that day, and enjoy themselves. Tom's from Georgia.
Luchador masks for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That'd be good. And just, who's that? Get them name tags.
Well, that was like the captain at Indo Expo. Did you see him?
No, he had a luchador mask.
No, but he was wearing a mask the entire time. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, you mean
behind who was?
What does he call himself? Captain something, right?
No.
Capulator or something?
Capulator, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Until the end, then I saw him without his mask. I was like, well, that blows it if you have your mask off now.
Oh, yeah.
You can't wear it halfway, and then you just got to keep going with that shit. I think we're beyond all that at this point in time. It was kind of like...
I feel that way, too. I mean, if you have an iPhone, come on.
Right. Well, if you're... Unless you're... some people, and it is not a bad move. It's a good move if no one knows who you are, right? And you want to make a fucking scene, well, then you can do that. But if there's like anything out there from before, like people just like
a MySpace page or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be that guy that just doesn't have any fucking social media. No one ever fucking seen you. You just came out of nowhere, and you can pull that off. And it's not a bad move because it is like, I'm sure Deadmau5 was stoked because no one knew who he looked like. And now when you see him, you're like, he just looks like a little rat, like literally like a little weaselly dude. You know what I mean? Like, but. I'm sure chicks up until that point were like, "Oh my god, I bet he's so hot." It's like comes off, looks like some little English kind of hooligan.
They still like it.
Oh, of course. Well, it's okay. He's achieved it or whatever. But if he was trying to do that, if he was trying to do that from before, it probably wouldn't have. Did I bend it, twist it? I did something. Check that shot.
Knocked a little camera in there.
But anyway, yeah, small intimate shows are kind of like obvious, and it is like. Becoming such a norm to have so many things that it's not like you're not really breaking new ground. I think it's just finding the right crew and just the right quality of people, and the benefits of it all are that we're now open enough to be able to help each other out and bring. You guys have any sponsors on this thing? Any big sponsors, or is it kind of?
It's Rootwise.
Okay, awesome.
Kevin.
Gotta get him on the show.
Shout out to
Jesus, Kevin. When are you gonna come on the show?
Yeah, when are you gonna come back to Denver? He's like here for the Indo Expo. That's it.
I know, and then he was super busy there too. Even when we talked, it was like we barely got time in, but we're definitely gonna get him on the show soon. I just started working with. He gave me some samples, and I just started finally. We'll have stuff to talk about now.
Then when we have Jeremy Silva with Build a Soil is everywhere, right?
So familiar.
And then, of course, Green Farms is a sponsor as well.
Is it an organic cupper? Or,
I wish, man. It's not designed that way yet, but maybe maybe sitting here we can come up with something like that.
Well, the reality was that ours is completely open to anything. You do whatever the hell fuck you want. We even let powdery mildew in. That's how literally that's how unbiased we are. We're not putting any kind of restrictions because it's strictly ours is strictly judged by the people who are entering. So you enter, you judge. There's no third party
judges.
Yeah, because that way when they complain, it's like, well, you're the ones who did it, so stop complaining, right? And on top of that, I feel like they deserve to know what the competition. It's kind of because a lot of times you enter and then you don't ever really know what the fuck's going on, and then if you win, obviously you don't question it, and when you don't win, you're like, man, what the fuck? And then it's like it's a lot better if you could have been like, well, yeah, actually that was damn fucking fire. I can't really argue, and mine maybe wasn't quite as flushed as that was, or whatever, Then you at least know for yourself. But yeah, like we had Rob Carney won with Chem D, right? Was it D or 4?
I want to say Chem 4, but
you're just making it up.
Nah, I'm not hunting on that one.
I thought Chem 4 too, but then I was questioning myself. I said, Chem. But anyway, it was definitely, it had PM definitely, and not rampant obviously because I would have been disqualified probably early on. But since ours is just a head to head, and it's like you win, you lose. There's no really, and we don't have any categories, no sativas, no indicas. That stuff sucks because there's no such thing anymore.
Right.
And so you feel stupid even writing it down. Like, it's the best.
What if we had like a landrace cup?
Sativish and indikish.
That'd be pretty cool, right?
Is what it should be. What?
Like a landrace cup.
A landrace cup would be dope. Tough.
Real tough.
Tough.
No one's. But if anybody could pull it off,
the timing would be nightmare. It'd be like, all right, bro, when is it going to be? You'd be like, it's going to be in September. They'd be like, cool, I'll start it now in fucking April. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, it ain't ready yet, bro. It's like December maybe. It's like some of those things just are crazy long, And the ones that we would probably, well, that's the thing about land races in general. It's like the ones you really, really like usually are the biggest pain in the ass ever, because they're very few plug and play ones, you know what I mean? Like even Afghans and stuff, the problem with them, they always had like mold issues were rampant because of the overlapping of everything, and it's being kind of, and also, like the sativas and stuff would be, it's like, especially in an indoor situation, it's like you just lock out after a certain point, or it's hard to figure out the right size container. And you go too big, it just sort of soups out on you or whatever, and you go too small, and they're fucking run out of room. So it's really like you get a lot, and with like classically with hazes, if you have anything with haze in it, it's like 90% of it's not going to be desirable, and it's not that it's like terrible. Well, it is kind of terrible. It literally, like, there's only about 10%, even when you're on a good day, and so it's one of those things where if you're going to grow those out for that long and take that risk.
Right. The only people that appreciate usually are other growers,
Oh, 100%. Well, yeah, it was like, somebody was telling me the other day that they basically had brought some weed. I'm trying to remember who it was. They brought some weed up, and because we were talking about 2.
Yeah, he's doing a bunch of land races.
And
yeah,
I gotta remember who it was. Oh, it was Will, who was on our show before. Will,
from
the air cleaner guy, the air cleaning company thing. They had the air scrubber thing. Will and his dad. Anyway, I'll remember later. But Will and his dad, and Will was saying that he was hanging out with 2, and he pulled out some stuff that was like heavy land race sort of stuff, and it was like just like a weird profile that was nobody or whatever like, and 2 was like, that's it, that's the shit. And I was like, oh, that's so 2 right there, to go for like the obnoxiously wrong flavor that you're like, no, yes, dude, it's like a cupboard under a cupboard of your grandmother's house, but like, no, that's not a good smell. It's like, but to each his own, right?
Yeah,
that's how it is though. And it's like, but land races, you really have to have a good nose, because a lot of those things, it's very hard to emulate anything anyway, because you're growing, you're going to grow like a South African strain, and then it's going to be in, Colorado. It's going to take a couple of rounds to even get to know where the fuck it's at. And a lot of times you lose because it's very hard to select, because the first time you select, it's really almost like you're taking a crap. You should almost do everything 2 times or 3 times, because it's really like they get weird, like especially out of seed compared to from a clone, because most land races have never been in that kind of environment at all, you know, combined with probably never been cloned before either, you know what I mean? And it's still just a plant, but it's also like when you get like a lanky and you try to clone that, it's like, wow, this is not gonna, you know, it's not as easy. So
for sure,
with an arrow cloner with your Colombian.
Have you ever grown any Ben Holmes's gear? He's got some of that.
Oh, you mean the
Centennial?
I've never grown it. The Autos and the Auto 2s and stuff. I mean, when I first came here, I met him, and it was just funny because I mean, him and I have talked about it later. But at first, it was like, I don't know, he apologized to me later when he met me because he's like, the first time he met me, he just, I don't know, he was really like weird, like it was.
I've had a couple of breeders do that to me too, where it's like, wow, man.
It was just weird because it was like he was, I don't know if it was nervous or something, but it was just like strange because I was like introducing myself, and then he got very defensive and strange about it, and I was asking him some questions, and I don't know, we just had like this weird beginning, so I never like, well, don't want to deal with that, and then later I heard like, yeah, they're all, like, selection's not so great, or this and that, but then when I looked at his breeding practices, I was like, this guy fucking knows what he's talking about. Like, this guy's definitely on point. I couldn't see anything wrong with the way he was doing stuff. And I'd seen some decent results and stuff. So it was kind of like, you know, later we were on a sort of a, but it just kind of was just weird. That first initial meeting made me just like, oh, okay, well, guess I won't be working with any of that gear. You know what I mean?
He had some, you know, especially maybe 5 years or more. It was really hard to find.
This is about 8 years ago, but yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard for me, at least, to really find anything that was quality CBD that you could kind of get from the source and not have to order online or something like that.
What was his percentages were pretty low though, right?
Yeah,
like
I mean, I was just
range?
trying to learn, you know, maybe teach myself a little bit, growing different genetics.
And was there anything that stood out that you grew? Did you grow the autos then, obviously, 1 and 2?
The autos were the autos, you know, they're kind of
that's the exact reaction that I got. So I was kind of like, you know, probably don't want to do that if that's the reaction that you're getting.
But again, you know, it was the only way I could at first get those seeds. It's really hard for me back then, at least. I wasn't dialed in.
And did you make anything with those? Or?
No, I'm not at that level, to be honest.
I
would love to achieve that. That's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, the cool part with CBD stuff is that it's like in the beginning there was not. It was really, really hard to find some stuff. I mean, my friends made the Canatonic, and that was kind of like the one that kind of started a lot of people off. But there was, you know, a few other ones out there. But really, it's just like, it's crazy how many different selections there are now. It's just finding people that are, you know, working with material that's fitting the rest of the profiles, because a lot of times it's just people looking at numbers, and that doesn't really relay the. It depends what you're making. If you're making something like a salve, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Right. It doesn't matter what it tastes like. Oh, how's your salve taste? It's like, I don't know. Like, once in a while, I get a little tiny bit in my mouth, and, you know. But if it is like a finished product that you're trying to work into any kind of thing that with taste and flavor, because it's 0.3, you're still limited. But it's amazing. Like, some of the stuff that's actually popped up, you're like, wow, I can't believe that that's got almost no THC in it. And back in the day, when people didn't have any angle to ever test anything, you know, you just went on your feelings. I think we probably had a lot more CBD stuff that was just out there from small growers. Who we got?
Veronica, I think.
She's calling in?
She's calling in.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it says.
We'll get political from him.
All right.
Yo, welcome to the Dunn Show. Who we got?
Hey.
Hey. I thought you were coming in the studio. I didn't realize you were going to be calling in.
I'm so sorry. I just got the number. My day's been crazy, and I'm still in Boulder.
That's fine.
But I didn't want to leave you hanging.
No, that's cool. That's cool. All right. We have an empty seat sitting over here for you, but if you did make it, we had a throne.
That's right.
We had literally had a throne waiting for you. So, okay.
You just hold on to that throne. I'll be in there sooner than later. I promise.
It's a fold-up throne. Don't worry about it. It's not that. It's not that throny. But so
not that throne.
But it's beautiful. It's brand new. It looks throny, but it's fold-up. So you know we can store it for you. So welcome to the show.
Like a huge blunt waiting there for me. I need to make sure there's something ready for me when I get there.
Oh, there will be. Are you really going to come down? Because if you want to, you can.
Not today, but we have much more to talk about after today.
I'm sure we will. So I got other guests in the show, so I've just kind of been waiting on to see when you were rolling in. I thought like I said, I thought you were going to roll in, and get all high with us, and get all sloppy and high, and forget about what you even wanted to talk about. That was the original plan. Like, so what were you here for again? I forgot. So, have you been sitting down? Have you been at these hearing of these things, or what? Have you been, or is this like happening right now as you speak? Oh, okay. So, fill us in. I couldn't remember. I didn't write nothing down. I couldn't remember even the bill thing. I was like, it's 18 something. Okay. So, give us a whole update on this bill and how it's going to affect, or hopefully not affect, the CBD market here and all the companies that are literally at the beginning of their careers, and how this might affect it.
Yeah, okay. So this is a bill. The bill's name is, the bill title number is HB 18-187. So 1187 is the GW pharmaceutical bill here in Colorado. Mm-hmm. There's been significant changes over the last 72 hours, you could say. Mm-hmm. This bill currently has 4 different bill sponsors. The bill agenda, according to GW, is to allow doctors and pharmacists to prescribe and dispense FDA-approved marijuana products. They started out with the word cannabidiol specifically, because, of course, GW is going to get June approval in June with FDA to sell their drug worldwide, or at least nationwide, and import it in here from London, where it will be grown and manufactured.
Wow.
So when I heard about this bill, and I saw that I arranged yesterday, that meeting was very interesting. A lot of people came. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of concerned parties. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of things we don't know how it will affect us down the road on a federal level or state level, depending on what the feds do.
Right.
So all of the lobbyists on every side left very upset yesterday. The hemp industry left concerned. Tuesday we have committee, which means the bill can either go forward or die there. I think I've decided what the best strategy is at this point, trying to get some consensus. So maybe you can help me with that.
Uh-huh.
Before I tell you what that is, one of the big sticking points GW pointed out was that their drug is only being approved really for 2 specific conditions for children. And they say that there's about 1,000 of these kids with these conditions here in Colorado that would benefit from their drug, CBD drug, which is a very small population, right? Only 1,000 kids maybe could benefit from this drug. We all want access to the cannabis plant. Would you agree that we all believe in access
of course,
to the cannabis
100%.
plant? Exactly. So I think at this point, after much thought and pondering, looking at all sides, Colorado needs to put a brake on this bill. We want to readdress it next year. We don't want it to go anywhere this year. There's too many questions. There needs to be more research done. The industry, we want to support something, but we have our own bills that we're working on to protect us, like the hemp foods bill, for example. And we're not in a rush to get this done. GW is.
Right. Yeah, and
so
I think also what I was saying earlier is that, I've never seen a deal that the first one was the best one. You know what I mean? It's always been, it literally has to be negotiated. And something like this serious, when you're talking about, like hundreds of companies that are, that or potential either already on the books or, just about ready to come online, because I know there's, for everyone there's 3 other people who are doing a salve line or animal CBD line or whatever. And so there's a lot on the line, a lot financially on the line, but also it's like, the one thing we know is that cannabis is not a one-shot deal. There's no like, oh, this thing does it? Oh, yeah, really? No, well, that doesn't do it for me. Sorry, you know what I mean? So you need the diversity within the industry to make this thing legitimate, you know what I mean? The minute it's not, once you get down to like a single source, just like isolate, you know what I mean? Like, like if we were going to all turn to isolate today because somebody told us that, some scientist told us that that's 99.9% pure, so it must be the best thing for you, you're like, no, that's actually that. literally, we call it the hot dog of extracts, you know, because it's just like, it's not even close to quality that we're looking for. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just a bunch of lips and assholes thrown together and extracted and turned into a clean sounding product, but yet almost effectiveless. You know what I mean? As far as like without bringing it in with something else. So yeah, it's like, because you like as an example at your awards, which were awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
He was smart and went like, you know, what are the biggest selling things in the world in the medical field? Like right now, it's like, you know, she didn't do it. Did she do hair loss too? She did hair loss, right? No.
Yeah, and she has a gift. That she literally has
hair
a
loss
gift at how she puts
boner
it all
pills,
together.
basically. Perfect. That's what you go for. That's the moneymaker.
That's
Boom.
the market, right?
Give me the boner pills. No, was it? Now tell me about that one that she had. That was interesting.
Oh my gosh, you guys should have been judges. Next year, maybe you could be some of my testing judges. You want to be? It's very awkward to ask judges to have sex to test the product.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's a really awkward one right there.
No.
See, because unfortunately, I don't need it so much that it would be like, yes, it works great. so I need to find some lame guys.
Okay, I have to tell you a really funny story, and he'll probably kill me for saying this on your radio show.
No.
But Representative Salazar was at the Indo Expo in the Hemp Hallway, right?
Sure
He's running for Colorado Attorney General. He's awesome.
Yes, he is.
He's the guy we need to be the next Colorado AG.
Right.
So he was at the Indo Expo. I asked him to be one of the judges for some of the products to sample and judge, and I literally had to ask him if he would have sex with his wife to try male enhancement, dude stuff out, dude enhancement cream out, and he said yes. So I was like, thank you. It was funny.
Did you tell him you needed a video of an application to make sure that it was put on correctly?
I told him, don't give me too much details. I just want to rate it from 1 to 10, and I got a 10.
Wow. Mrs. Salazar must be happy.
We need to get him on your
real
show.
Street knowledge.
100%. Yeah, no, for sure. They definitely need to get him on. And, well, that's good. So this will give you a reason when you're coming back on the show, obviously, to come hang out with us. Then that's a great guest, a great guest to bring in. Okay. So let's go back to the bill. Let's go back to the bill now. What's the chances of this thing passing, and who's our biggest sort of advocates right now that we need to sort of remind that?
Gillis.
Who's that? Kill it?
Yeah, so I mean, so I would say, depending on who you ask, like the GW side would say this bill's going to pass no matter what. The Veronica side and the other hemp side says, no, it's not going to pass, nothing's guaranteed.
Now, hasn't GW been shut down before in a couple other states trying to do the same thing?
They have, and you know, Colorado, we're ground zero, we're epicenter right here for all things cannabis, both hemp and MJ. So what we do really sets a huge standard. Plus, it also gives a very interesting perception, perhaps, to the Fed. If we say CBD is a drug and approved here as a drug, also for dispensing, that might actually validate the Fed's position to say, well, Colorado even said that it's a drug and it's okay. So, you know, there's just a lot of lingering questions. Now, one of the good things about the meeting is that the representative who sponsored the bill and one of the other senators there, Senator Don Quorum, they saw that the industry is very concerned. They thought there was more unity in decision-making, and they realized that wasn't the case, and the industry didn't even know to the last minute.
Right.
So they're kind of on the edge already now. I think the ball's in our hands. You know, I think it's in our hands. They need us to support them. GW needs us to support them. At this point, we need to take care of ourselves.
So wouldn't it be possible though that the other? I think it was like New Mexico that they got shut down, wasn't it? There was one or two. No. Who was it? There was a state.
No.
There was a couple states. I thought that actually they had tried to pull some of these same maneuvers, and they go like, no, Nick. So I mean. Otherwise, I'd say like they would set whatever they did to set precedent. I'd be all over that shit. Be like, well, but I mean, GW it's weird too because they've been in this game for so long, and people have kind of gotten used to the name, and it's sort of like, oh yeah, whatever. And you know, I when I was in Amsterdam, Rob Clark was working with them, and all these people that reputable people that were working with these guys, and it was actually a moment in time where I sent. Sage clones to them and I got categorized and it was in there, but then it got, didn't fit their profile, which is probably to my advantage at this point in time, because I'd be half proud and half just totally fucking pissed off. Obviously, just be it'd be the next chapter in the world. But I think the problem that I see is that if they try to, they might come in and say, oh no, we're only going to do these two conditions, but at a certain point, if there's anything federally accepted, we're fucked, because that's the thing. That's I think where we all realize that we've been wanting it to be legal for so long that we all kind of like now see the reality of legality, and it's not as fun. Not even fun. It's just not as It's not. It's like, oh shit. But because if you think about it, like legal anything, the reason we're not doing it at home and doing it like we do when we grow weed and process and make edibles and do whatever is because you're not allowed to, and they make it complicated enough and scary enough that you're like, well, fuck that. No one's going to grow tobacco and start selling their own cigarettes. You know what I mean? And be like, yeah, I got my own cigarettes. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Taxes, don't need it. You know what I mean? No way. And that's what it'll all come back to, taxes, and it'll all come back to those things that are like totally what we don't really need. Anyway, I digress. That's
okay.
That's okay. So Salazar, we need Salazar to come to our rescue, is what you're trying to say at this point in time.
He seems pretty receptive to the whole community.
I can tell you this about Salazar. He's a man of his word for sure. He's actually one of the sponsors on the Hemp Foods bill.
Nice.
He is the only one I trust enough to be able to battle sessions. And if we had, FDA come after our producers here for the other side of cannabis for hemp. So I really feel confident in him for so many reasons, and I've worked with him for quite a while. So we got to support him and get behind his campaign. He's not the typical white guy.
Yeah.
Let me put it like that.
Right. And if this bill does get squashed, which the thing is, and like I said, I think we all can readdress it in a different direction, in a different, and come back at this next year. It's funny how some things drag out for so long, and then you see how when they try to push some agenda through, like a midnight session, we're gonna do it at midnight on Friday when no one's around. You know what I mean? That's when it gets super sketchy. And and Colorado has literally just been kind of like just fucking literally just spitting in the face of the industry, it seems like, as far as we want money. It's just like money, and you're like, wow, there is no, I feel like when Washington State got rid of medical is when they lost the plot, and then I really thought that Colorado would never do that, and now I see it just happening kind of right in front of our eyes, where it's like they're really just trying to squeeze out the idea of medical, which is ridiculous because there's thousands of people who moved here, and they're like and it's so vocal, and they've all been documented, and speaking of which, this is what I was thinking. I was just thinking of it, and then I totally got on that. So the session, Jeff Sessions' little thing, went down, right, and sounded pretty positive.
Oh yeah.
That all sounded pretty positive. It's like, wow, look, a judge who actually has a brain, and are you kidding me? It's like it's only taken 200,000 hours of time, because there's been so many court cases that I can't imagine. It's like, how did they not address any of this up until now? But it seemed like those 5 people that they put up in front was enough to show the ridiculousness of it all.
It looks like it's going to be able to. I do think it's going to move forward. I think the judge is going to see there's legal precedents to continue moving forward, or grounds to stand on, because he did recognize that there is medical value. How can he not? We're about to approve and oversee countries' drugs for CBD that they still consider cannabis, aka marijuana, under the CSA.
I know, and it's very, very ironic, obviously, at the same time, and it's like one of those things where, we all look, just as we said earlier, when it becomes legal, then what? Are we more fucked than we are? We could be. It could become to the point where, no, you have to buy your cannabis from this and that, and that's kind of what's happening in Colorado. You see it like when people who don't smoke or don't have any idea what's going on in the scene, they just look at it like, well, of course they can just go buy it, and there's like, no, dude, it's not even the people who are the people who don't smoke, who don't normally grow it or do it, they can do that. But if you're normally growing your own, that's like suicide almost. I'd rather slit my wrist than buy weed from a lot of these shops. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're fucking kidding.
Of course.
You're like, this is not.
Ew.
It's not weed.
No, I'm not touching any of that. Heck no. That's like a new form of cancer, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. This is a few things GW pharmaceutical lobbyists said to me, and as well as yesterday at the meeting. They said a few interesting things. One, they said that, they would get exclusivity after approval for 7 years. So no one who tried to submit a new drug application for like CBD drug under those particular uses would be able to get it for 7 years. So that was interesting. They also said that if we didn't pass this bill, we would be hurting sick children, which is ridiculous. And,
Come on.
And I know. And so yesterday it was funny because one of the GW ladies, she said, well, if insurance doesn't cover our prescription or the parents can't afford it because they don't have insurance, then they can just go to the store and get it. Well, okay. So, boom. Thank you. You just gave me my argument in some sense. So one of the things I think on Tuesday we should also assure the committee members, which is that some representatives from the House, what I want to reassure them is that we, Colorado, can provide for these 1,000 children, if that's how many there is. We will make sure for the next year these 1,000 children with these conditions get the product they need for free.
Of course.
And I will get
easy.
5 or 6, exactly, I'll get 5 or 6 companies to agree to that, and we'll special formulate it, whatever, make sure they get worked with and taken care of until next year when we readdress this bill.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's awesome that she said that because, I mean, it just shows that they're not willing to bend, they're not willing to adjust for situations like we would be because we're a community.
Yep.
And our community, I mean, that's that's what sort of I think tears up at people because we've always self-regulated each other, so it's always been like both good and bad. It's like, oh, so and so's fucking ripping everybody off. Fuck him, he's out. You know what I mean? We do that,
exactly.
and also, oh shit, they had a fire. Oh fuck, yeah, let's get them shit. We mobilize.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you're like the perfect example because you're the kind of person who I know 100% goes does those things. Just because nobody's telling you have to. Hey, you can make money on this, or it's like that's never never an issue. It's always been like, whoa, we made money on this. That's weird. Like I never see that. That's usually the case, but for the most part, there's no reason that, and I think I've said this 10,000 times on the show, but I always repeat this because I feel it's the most basic fucking thing. Medical should be supported by recreational, and it shouldn't even cost you anything. You should just be able to show that you need it, and then you can get it for free. That's just the way it should be, because
awesome.
and it shouldn't be, oh, I'm medical because I have a card. It should be medical because I'm fucking medical. That's the way it should be. And it would be, we know that the reality is if there's 130,000 cards, then that means there's about 45,000 patients, let's say. The rest are like borderline, maybe they got a little ache and pain and they just made it up. But you know what I mean? And that's because of the system of if you're going to give somebody a way to do it, they're going to do it, right? I mean, we know that. But those 35 to 50,000 patients that are serious, that are like, well, yeah, free. You know what I mean? There's nothing they can... Hardly anybody. Maybe there's a couple guys that can put you out of business, but there's very few. Most of them it's like they need an ounce a week. You know what I mean? What the fuck's that? It's nothing. You know what I mean? That's a tiny bit. And a lot of times they don't need the fucking top notch. They just need something that's the right balance. You know what I mean? And if it's a CBD situation, we're talking even more ridiculous. Like.
Well, you know what though? we have to we're even bigger than THC and CBD now. We have THCV, CBDV. There's one of the guys at the awards. They won best CBN product. They had really good CBN levels in their tincture that won, I believe it was.
Right.
I was shocked. I was like, hey, we are so much more impressive. Like, it is not just one cannabinoid. And the problem is GW Pharmaceutical, like, I'm not keep trying to bash them, but they have wised up to the fact about the entourage effect. They know it's not one single cannabinoid anymore. They want BCBD also. Well, this is concerning.
Yeah, I mean, the thing they actually did always recognize it because their whole thing was it was always a complete whole plant medicine. You know what I mean? So they did recognize it, I think, but they just were focusing maybe their literature and their sort of direction on CBD and THC.
Oh, okay.
But they did understand it. I just don't, I think that maybe they just didn't want to come all out and be like, we're taking it all. But now we will.
Oh, wow.
now
we know.
Yeah, well, now they can take the mask off, you know what I mean? And be like, I told you. I said CBD, THC, I meant everything in between, too. And that's I mean, every year the onion kind of opens another layer, and we're like, oh, none of us knew about CBG 10 years ago. You know what I mean? But now we all know. And then 10 years from now, there's going to be like, you didn't know about that? I'd be like, no, how do we fucking know that? It's literally cracking open the mysteries of cannabis, which there are a lot.
Well, and they have this argument, and I appreciate this fact that they've spent millions of dollars in research and development and testing and clinical trials and trying to go through a drug application submission of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But Colorado also has spent millions and millions of dollars doing research, just not the same kind. Mm-hmm. We've done decades of research already with all our customers, all our patients, the caregivers, the grows, the types of genetics. We also have done it, just not the same way. Yeah. I don't want that to be ever discredited because Big Pharma thinks they have a better way of doing it.
Well, the thing is that when you have to do a new drug and run it through the whole FDA and stuff, it is literally we know it. That's the reason why doesn't matter what it is, they have to go through all these clinical trials. They have to pay all this money. It's a lot of fucking cash goes out, and all their investors want to get their fucking pay, and everybody's like, man, on pins and needles. And when it finally hits, they have 7 years to make it happen. Then they're going to get generified basically by everybody else. So they gouge, and you've seen the gouging in the pharmaceutical industry and how it's just nuts right now. So then you take something like this, which is actually a plant-based, and it's like the reality of all plant-based medicines and herbal tinctures and things like that. It's like they do work. You know what I mean? Sorry, guys, but this is how it really, really works because we are, using nature to our benefit, whereas they're trying to benefit from nature. You know what I mean? It's the other way around. So they're kind of coming in and, we're going to extract X, Y, or Z, and then, the idea that they're going to control that because they extracted it, and it happens to be in whatever you're growing. It's still never as effective. You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those.
Right. So yesterday, someone we both know
mm-hmm.
brought up a point, which I'm not sure how I feel about, but she said that to relate it to CBD like this. So CBD, if someone had a massive calcium deficiency, they could go to the doctor and get a prescription for a concentrated calcium amount, whatever, that by prescription only. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you can go get calcium supplement at your store. Yeah. They're trying. She was suggesting these two pathways. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not against those two pathways. I just don't know if they can coexist.
Yeah. Yet. No, I know exactly.
And so for us to
I know exactly who you're talking about, and B, no, I don't think that's good. You can't. Well, the problem is we can't adjust right now just because we have to that hold our ground, like you said, and just come on, guys, one more year, no problem. We're not going to throw you. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're actually gonna we're gonna reevaluate it and maybe make it better. We're going to raise that kid for one more year until it's a little smarter, and then we can throw it out in the water. We can toss it out one more year. Let's not just throw it out as a newborn. Let's kind of see which direction it goes. Hey, it's a pretty good kid. Maybe we'll keep it. You know what I mean? Or we'll end up doing that. But I also see that I see this industry growing, a little too rapidly for itself in some ways, and obviously.
Yes. I agree with you 100%
and also,
on that one.
And not in other ways. Not socially at all. Socially, it's not growing at all. It's fucking retarded, basically. It's a retarded social side, unfortunately. I'm sorry I'm using the word retarded, but it really is in the sense that it's not moving forward in any way, shape, or form. Actually, though, sorry, I have actually some incredible news. Not really incredible news, but it was wacky news. I love serendipitous situations, and so my kid, he just started jiu-jitsu classes a couple days, about maybe a week ago, and we're on his third lesson.
I heard.
We're on the third lesson, right? And and Cece was sitting there with the mother of another kid, who's a little blonde 5-year-old, kind of same build as him and everything. So it's perfect because they have now they have somebody to sort of work with. And, you know, we'd already met a couple times, and then they asked my wife what she did. You know, what do you guys do? You know, and, oh, well, we work in hemp, and my husband has a radio show. And, you know, it's weeds, basically weed. You know, that's all she had to say. Weed.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, well, we actually we're the ones with the first license to open the first social club. And I was like, oh my God, how fucking wacky is that? The two,
ironic, such a small world,
right? The two kids, they don't even know what they just created. You know what I mean? As far as like a relationship goes, because I was already like, oh, I told Cece, like, cool, we'll get them on the show before they open up, because they're planning on opening them pretty soon, and they're in South Broadway, and they're doing everything by the books, and they're the first one to get approved. So it's happening to a point, but I have a lot of questions because I've heard some pretty lame ideas, and I'm like hoping that it's not their lame idea, because I was like going like, I've heard that they were like the first one is going to be a vape only. And I'm like, ooh. I mean, if that means okay, if we can smoke dabs, if that's fine, then I can deal with it. You know what I mean? But if it's
okay, so this is what I think that's all about, the Clean Indoor Act. And so I don't know if you remember, but I had a fun art and tea shop.
But it
was the first cannabis place you could smoke at in Lafayette. Do you remember that in 2012?
No, yeah, I don't think I ever went to that, but no.
I don't think either. But so I had that, and so one of the ways I got around letting people consume at that location was saying that it was vape only.
Sure.
Because it wouldn't violate the Clean Indoor Act. And we did smoke in there.
What?
It's closed down now.
You broke the
but
law?
We used like filters.
No, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's about.
Sure. And that's the reality. Yeah, of course you can't.
Yeah.
You can't do it. But I mean, I would think that somebody, if they were going to do a smoking place, would be like, okay, I have an indoor and I have an outdoor area, and outdoors you can still fucking smoke joints if you want to, like actually smoke marijuana. That's what's so crazy.
Have cigar bars.
Exactly.
Thank you. I was just going to say that. Why can't we be like a cigar bar?
And I mean, theoretically, if you bought a cigar bar, wouldn't you be able to let people smoke cannabis inside of that space? And there should be a bunch of them already around, I would think. But who knows?
So I know that cigar bars are required to do a bunch of like high tech, filtration stuff. Mm-hmm. That would be the same thing that would work for cannabis.
Of course.
Consumption in a private location or like a club location or, even a retail location in a private room or something.
Yeah, I mean, because when I hear somebody, and I said edibles too, and I was like, well, that's kind of laughing. That's a laughing stock right there. Like, you can do edibles in my like, really? I can do edibles in the street.
Can I do mushrooms?
Wow.
Can I get some mushrooms?
Of course. See, you're always going to step. We're going to.
Yeah, Wolf will be opening soon.
Opening soon. Next door. But yeah, it's like the idea of smoking vape pens and eating edibles. I'm like, I can do that like in the supermarket while I'm buying food. You know what I mean? Nobody would ever question you. Like, but for the most part, it's crazy how we're like so many years into so-called legalization and we're still like talking about this. It's like weird. You're like, God, and every time you think it's going to pop off somewhere else, it still doesn't happen. Like, Vegas doesn't.
I know, it's bullshit.
Big talk, no action.
It's really weird that we have like this discussion at legislation session going on right now about some bills that are trying to do like opiate locations. You can, I guess, like safe injection sites or something. They call them. I forgot what the term is.
Sure.
And so I'm totally for that, 1,000%. But I need some safe consumption sites.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So what the fuck?
Right. It makes it seems like a big leap, right? You're like, okay, so we're gonna not even give these guys an option, but sure, you want to inject heroin? Come on down. We've got your spot.
Here's the address.
Yeah, no, and I lived in Holland, obviously, for years, and they've had safe injection sites for forever, and same with Switzerland, and it definitely is better than having guys on the street fucking leaving needles everywhere and shooting up in alleyways and stuff. So it's better, but it's crazy that we would even like not,
But can't you guys smoke at the coffee shops in Holland? Like,
of course.
Isn't that okay to smoke?
Yeah, exactly. No, the weed has never been. I mean, and that's the thing is they have safe injection sites, but they also have safe places to smoke cannabis, and that's like, that city has not suffered in any way, shape, or form. Even though there's all different groups, Christian groups or whatever, would be like, oh my God, it's horrible. But it's like, no, you get hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year from tourists coming through and spending all their money and losing it half the time, and then getting more, and like and buying just stuff they don't need just because they want to smoke weed. And it's just like, it is. When it's off there, it's off. You know what I mean? Like when you're off season, you're like, wow, it's quiet. You could never survive on these people.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's like the doors open, and wow, it's a million people. Literally a million people coming through your city when there's only a million people there. It's like holy shit, it doubles in population, and they all rent rooms. They all stay in it's like it's that kind of a town. It's always been a touristy place, and it accommodates what it can accommodate. But at a certain point, the town's full. You know what I mean? Denver is fucking up right now.
What about places like iBake? How are they operating?
iBake?
I thought they got shut down. I thought they got shut down in a few locations. I think they're barely surviving still in one.
Sketch, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I never went there because I had obviously the Hood Lab and all that going on. And every time it was like, people would go there and then come to us, and then just by the description alone, I'd be like, all right, I'm not going by there. I don't need to go there. Yeah. It's like, what? Don't fucking put your lips on any pieces, dude. You're gonna get herpes. So I'm like, all right, that sounds like a terrible place to go, even though it's probably not true, but it still, makes your brain not want to go there. Like, okay, you don't want to go there.
If you've seen it, you could believe it.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. You could.
I went to a spot in the Springs, and it was smoking outside on their patio.
What, Lazy Lion or something?
No,
the Hemp
A64.
Yeah,
Studio 64. And then and I think they did dabbing inside.
Yeah,
Club 64.
Not Club 64. It's
Studio.
Are you talking about Rob and Chloe's Club 64?
No. That was.
You're talking about
the other guys that did the same name, basically. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
And
was that the Spring?
They were in
the Springs, right?
Yeah, it's in the Springs. It's near downtown.
Exactly. And the problem is that what I don't like, though, is like a lot of times when guys do those places is because the reality is, you're not going to make any money. It's really hard to make money. But then they always do like, donate, and you're going to get some weed. And then it's like, you're just selling weed. You know what I mean? At that point. So it's like, and since there is an actual fucking protocol, you know what I mean, to go when there's no protocol, fucking go for it, dude. If you can't set, like if you're in Oklahoma and there's nowhere to open up a fucking bar or sell weed, I don't give a shit, that's great. But the minute that there is actually a legal thing, when you do that and you go into the guise of a donation, I think it's just kind of lame in a way. It's kind of like
I'm not into that donation idea. I think that's the stupidest shit ever.
Yeah, and
I think that you should definitely BYOC. It should always be like bring your own cannabis.
Sure.
And then you could charge them a fee for coming in or something, but like not a normal fee, not like $500 a night.
No, exactly.
But I don't think.
Yeah, I always hate it, and because it's like, and right now it's huge in like the East Coast. It's crazy. Like it is so funny. Like in DC, it is bonkers, dude. There's people who like.
Why?
Because there's like two. I met two guys, two brothers. One of them's a tattoo artist. And him and his brother were like, basically we just rent out. We get a building. Sometimes even do it in like abandoned buildings. They just go and they'll have a fucking address. Everybody meets up because of social media, and they'll have 40 to 80 vendors, and everybody will have a couple pounds of weed. Sometimes even 10 pounds of weed with them, and they'll sell it all in ounces. And they'll have their own little labels on everything, and people will just walk around like it's a flea market and buy weed. And the only way
that is so cool.
And everybody has stacks of T-shirts or stacks of something else, and you buy a T-shirt and you get a free ounce of weed. And that's the whole thing. Is everyone comes out with like piles of merch and weed. So if you bought you bought 8 T-shirts and
sounds like heaven.
Half a pound of weed is what you'd end up with. And so it's like, and there's like 3 floors of this going on, right? Wow. And I was just and then my friend Jerome Baker, the guy who owns Jerome Baker, he was like telling me that he was just there on a visit, and it was like, hey, come on with me, and he sat there, and he was like, holy shit, this is crazy. He got on the phone, he called his friends in Cali, like, you guys may want to check this out, because this is like, it was nuts. It was like, and people were like, oh, dude, it's all legal, but it's like, come on, guys, and then. It kind of, I think it's great when you can flex like that, because I'm never going to, hate on people for doing shit like that. But
that's so cool.
At a certain point, though, it is like, it shows you how, like, everybody's missing out on a better experience if it was legal, or if there was a way to do that properly. Because, I think there should be, like, for instance, like, I think it's a good idea, because I think there should be a farmer's market where people should be able to sell a certain amount and not be, as long as you don't go gangbusters, you come there with a couple pounds of weed, whatever. That's like.
We should try to pass a bill next session to do that. We should talk more about this idea. Like, if you're serious.
I mean, I think it's because that's one of those things that it just drives me nuts because even if you only have 12 plants, well, you can't do nothing with it legally because you have no options. And at the same time, 12 plants can produce a decent amount of weed. So if you had a little excess, why shouldn't you be able to either trade it or do whatever openly, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be a big issue, and it shouldn't come down to like ounce at a time. Like I'm gonna walk out of the house with an ounce to you every fucking 20 times in a day or something. But but for legally,
well, and it might actually help if we approached it as the idea of it would help diversion out of the state, because it would help people have the option in state, swap meet, all legal, limits, whatever. That'd be awesome.
I mean, other states do it, and it's like one of those things where when you actually, again, with cannabis, it's always like, it sounds so crazy until you do it, and then you're like, is this really what we were all just worried about? Like, a bunch of people getting high and hanging out and nothing really happening. That's like, too much. Like, and the more you make it sort of crazy and whatever, is like, it's easy for people to, never, if you don't experience it, then it's like you do it and you're like, oh, well, fuck. Here's 10,000 people with all high, and it's like way better than 10,000 people all drunk. Go down to the beer fest, and you don't want to hang out with anybody. I mean, you walk around, there's not one good conversation. It's just like, like you get a bunch of weed people together, and it's like it's always the vibe's always a lot more.
Yeah, there's no fighting. Right. There's no fighting.
Wow. I had
drama.
We almost had a fight with Norton in our place one time. So there you go. Like, of all people. So leave it to a lawyer to get into a fight, a fist fight in your shop. But no, pretty much for the most part, weed events are non-event. Well, in Cali they got
until the Cannabis Cup. I know the Emerald Cup sounded so good. So speaking of Cali, I want to ask you something about that in a second. But if we still have the Cannabis Cup here, that was actually a really huge event. I think, and I might be biased, that the Indo Expo 2018 here in Denver killed it. It is like the hugest event for sure in Colorado for cannabis, and I think it might be one of the biggest ones in the nation. Well, they're Colorado, Oregon, and Cali.
Exactly, if you combined them all. And then I think the cool part was, we were talking about earlier, it's like, it's nice though when it doesn't go too quickly, too big, because it doesn't matter if it's a expo or if it's a Cannabis Cup or whatever. It's like there's a certain sort of size where it's no longer, you just don't get to do what you want to do. You're like, man, I didn't even see you. I was there all weekend, bro. I didn't see you. It's like, because I was on the other side. Because if you went to Vegas, you would have been just blown away. The Vegas thing, which was the MJ BizCon, it was 600 booths. You know what I mean? So that's like, that's the biggest thing right now going by far. And it was like, Vegas style. So it's like, and literally I saw people like just tuckered and like done, like halfway through, just like I'm done, dude. I can't go any further. It's like, what? Like you couldn't even make it down every aisle. Fun, for me, it was tough because I knew everybody, but for these guys, it was just like they had like 80 bags on them, and they were trying to like get samples from everything. You know what I mean? And it was like, I can't make it through. But yeah,
oh my gosh, I know.
But when you get to those,
I didn't even get anything.
Yeah, but when you get to those size things, it's not fun anymore. So I mean, it is good that it's kind of grown at the pace that it has. I think it's like it's giving everybody because as a vendor, it's like it's also interesting because like, I mean, when it gets too big, you feel like you're lost in the sea of whatever. And it's also like you'd rather have a more dense crowd than a spread out thing. You know what I mean? Sometimes. So it's like, in a way, if you can keep it kind of in a certain range, you're almost like I think you'll last longer as an event, because the minute you get too big, the edges get a little bit weak, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's like, I didn't make any, because a bunch of unhappy vendors is the worst, you know what I mean? That's
and attendees, because this time the fire chief made us shut the doors.
Oh, that was bullshit.
You got too many people in. That was insane.
It wasn't even close to full either. It was like.
In fairness, though, there were some companies that left like a bunch of carts and stuff in the hallway, and that's what he was really upset about.
Oh.
No, that was the morning. I actually dealt with that issue, right? So I have to at least say the Indo Expo I have to give them props for putting both the MJ side and the hemp side together under the same event. Like, they've done a really good job with that, don't you think? I do.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But then again, I'm biased.
Of course. We're all biased a little bit. But no, that is for sure one of my parts of the event that I like the most is that the CBD and the hemp people have... and this time it was a lot more space. I mean, well, what happened in the beginning with that whole aisle going? Like,
remember the tent when we tried to put up that big, huge canopy that one year?
Yes, I do.
And they decided...
Yeah.
I still have pictures of that somewhere.
I know.
Putting it up and then they made you take it down.
I had it going on. I had I broke every rule possible. I had like a huge tent inside, and it was like blocking the fire. Everything. It was pretty much. I did everything wrong, and I was like, I had it all up. Like, yeah, looking good. And the guy's like, take it down. I'm like, no. So yeah, yes, I do remember that.
That was so funny. I don't know why I remember that.
One of my I totally forgot about that too. That's one of the many escapades. Basically, what I do at trade shows is I always try to take up as much room as possible.
Really good times, like with you and things that you've been part of. Like when you had, what was it called, Cannabis?
Oh yeah, that was a good.
That
one.
was like epic.
Yeah.
Just because it was crazy with the snow, all the people coming in. We had just legalized rec.
I know.
It was intense.
We had Raekwon and we had DJ Premier, and then I think we had at one point. So the cops came like a couple times, obviously, like around, and it was. I remember the last time it was 12:18, and I was like way over the time limit. You know what I mean? Because 10 o'clock is pretty much like when you're supposed to kind of like do sound ordinance. And I mean, right now that neighborhood's blowing up even further, but there was, residents all around. And I believe that it was because the quality of the music was so high that none of the neighbors cared. Because we live kind of on the edge of the ghetto, and it's like we have Raekwon and DJ Premier live in the fucking back spot. Huge system, and really like you could hear it from 3 blocks away or 4 blocks away. People were like, I heard it all the way down at Broadway or whatever. It's like 8 blocks away. And I'm like, really? Like, oh, fuck. And then the cops came. And one time they rolled in and they were like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, well, we got DJ Premier and Raekwon. And the one cop goes, the chef? And I was like, oh, you're a fan, And he's like, all right, I'll let you a little bit longer, you know what I mean? And then they came back like shaking their heads at me. And I was like, oh, come on, just one, I was giving them the one more deal. And they actually let it go. It was pretty dope. They were like, all right. And then going, and then I actually I even had another guy. Who's that ringing? I hear some.
Yeah, it's probably another.
What is that? Secret phone ringing? Oh wow. Anyway, I had one of the guys who was checking all the food trucks, right, for their so he wears a badge.
Oh yeah.
So he wears a badge, right? He has one of those flip out badges. And so he's official. And at first I thought he was a cop, but he came and all of a sudden he was checking all the permits, right? And this was like before the first day. And I was like totally nervous that it was going to be like, oh great, we're fucked. I just put up all these tents with no permits. I didn't have nothing. I had not a single permit for the entire event. And he was a hip hop fan. And when he found out that it was Raekwon and the chef, he said, can I come with my friends? And I was like, sure. And when he came back, he had like his fucking brand new shoes and his fucking hood up. And I was like, wow, you don't look like the same guy, you know what I mean? And then he was like, you smoke mota? I was like, oh, yes, sir, this is my guy right here. So he was a parking dude, too. He was in charge he was one of the parking guys. So I was like, yes.
Oh, nice.
Those are the guys you want to know. Pretty much that was my favorite part of the party was that I knew the parking guy. I was like, yeah, we didn't get busted. I didn't know the parking guy. And we managed to pay fucking Raekwon and him, so... That's the other thing.
Too funny.
Yeah, so that was a great event, and then you were rocking the bar with your CBD coffee at that time, right? That was.
You know what? I was making marijuana tea for everybody because everyone from out of state was there, and they were so desperate because they couldn't even get rec, yet, and no one would sell anything to all the people, and I didn't have anything. I just made marijuana tea for like hundreds of people.
Nice.
That's what I did.
Right, and then we had those chai guys there too, didn't we? At that time, was that the one with remember those chai guys, the medicated chai guys that were super crazy around the corner? Do we have them was that the event? I think it was.
Fuck, I don't know. I just remember it was so cold, and you were shoveling snow off the top of the tent at some point in the morning on one day.
Yeah, no, I know it was rough. I was. I think it cost me that thing cost me like over $10,000 more than I thought it would because of the rain, because of the snow. I had to like rent huge heaters and tons of propane, and it was just like, oh, this thing is killing me right now. So it definitely
was epic.
It definitely was. I was rough on the budget, but it was a super awesome event, and it's crazy. Whenever I go by that spot now, it's like now it's just full of Airstreams. It looks all weird. It's like, wow.
I know it does look weird. I passed it the other day. It's
the things
totally
that went
weird.
down there. You know what I mean, it's one of those deals. And yeah, I mean. I don't think it would work now because that neighborhood's so blowing up, of course.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a time and a place. Every time we're in a new spot, it's always like the time and the place, and then we're out, and then the whole neighborhood changes. And that seems to be our formula. 2 years max. You know what I mean? After 2 years, no one wants us anymore. Hey, get the hell out of here with your stuff. So
stinks in there.
So back to the bill. Let's go right back all the way. We're going way back. What's the websites that people got? How do people get involved with this and do something?
They need to go to growhempcolorado.com and they will see a link that says GW Bill in the main menu. Then they can find all my contact information on there. They can find audio from yesterday's meeting. They can find when committee meets on Tuesday, what and where and when to do. In fact, Monday I'm going to be posting a free conference call number so people can call in and we can all have this discussion and try to come to some consensus as a community. But yeah, I think what do you think about this direction I'm proposing, that we just put everything on hold for a year?
100%. That sounds like the most logical. Okay. Totally sounds logical, and it doesn't. If it's basically like saying, if you think this is going to be good for everybody, then it will be good for everybody next year too, and we'll take care of it in between, and nobody will suffer. So don't worry about it. Please don't worry about it.
But what happens when GW gets upset and is like, no, their community's not as good as ours, or they can't take care of these kids because they're not doctors?
Well, I mean, the thing is
we're not trying to give medicine. We just do have CBD, and we have it available here, and these big companies are willing to work with.
We're never claiming it is medicine. You guys are the ones trying to claim medicine, and
right.
But these kids are being benefited. The thing is that if they can only benefit 1,000 people, there's a hell of a lot more people involved out here that need to get their medicine too. And if you're not going to help them, who's going to help them? You know what I mean? So we're not going to wait for you to formulate your next formula. Like, FDA, we have to go through the whole thing again now for the next thing, and like all these other people got to suffer because we're going to just take care of 1,000 people now. That makes no sense. You know what I mean? That's like that is actually hurting more patients than it's helping by far. So why would you ever?
That's a good point.
Why would you consider that? And then on top of that, again, we're able to take care of these people without claiming it's medicine. We're not here to take away your fire and be like, we're the new medicine on the block. You know what I mean? We're just going to offer straight raw products. Here's some tinctures, and here's some, here's our range of things we're going to offer. None of them are in the same Sativex. None of them are in your patented way of doing it. We have no nasal injections because that's all. I mean, that is real. They have patents on that. So cool. We'll totally respect you and your patent with your nasal enhanced spray thing. Nobody touches that. You know what I mean? And guaranteed. And there you go. What else? We're giving dogs. We're giving dogs biscuits.
So is that what Epidiolex is?
Yes.
An inhaler?
It's like you spray it in like a little sprayer deal. Yeah. And
so it's not a tincture or a capsule. It's just
it has its own delivery system and everything. So I mean that's so fine. Keep that. We're not going to step on your toes. We don't want to take your millions of dollars worth of research. But the problem is you also only have 2 strains or whatever. Come on, we have what are we going to do with all the rest of these things that are here? We're going to not process them. We're just going to go, okay, well, if GW doesn't want it, I guess we're just going to end up sitting around on all this. Yeah, what are we going to do with it? So
that's not no way over my dead body.
You know what I mean? And so I feel like at the, and I can understand that there's groups out there that are no, we got to do it now, because they just, everybody wants things to go their way, and that's great, but not at the expense of the rest of the people out there. You know what I mean? Not because one group gets to say that they spearheaded this thing and it went through, but
Right.
it now benefits 1,000 kids. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't seem like a thing that needs to be decided on right now. You know, I think that would be, maybe there'll be 2,000 kids next year, and you guys can actually step your game up a little bit more. But I just think you have to benefit more people. It has to be for the benefit of the most people possible. You know, sacrifice the rest. No, but you know.
No, and I mean, yeah, no, I totally get it, and I think that you're totally right about it. It's actually, you know, in fact, I would say we even have more registered hemp farmers than the amount of kids that they're talking. But it sounds evil
right.
for me to say that, because we don't want the kids to still suffer, but we can make sure they don't.
Well, yeah, you have a farmer for each kid. I think they got enough CBD, right? I think we got it covered, guys.
Yeah,
we got one farm per kid. He's done. He's got a lifetime supply.
Oh, I have to use that. Thank you. That's a great idea. You're a genius. One farm per kid. Boom! I'm stealing that.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, if those numbers drive like that, then it's really like, hey, come on, how are we gonna stifle such a huge market? Stifle such a huge market where they'll have no out, because now all of a sudden, you know, you can't. I mean, if they don't try to control CBD even further, then I mean, technically, yes, you could move it across state line, et cetera, so it can still be used. But why would Colorado not want to benefit from its own product that it's in its own state? You know, I mean, it'd be ridiculous if we start exporting all of the CBD out of here because we're not allowed to use it. I mean, that would be weird.
Yeah, I'm loving what you just said, though. The one farm per kid, that was brilliant. You don't even realize how brilliant that was.
There you go. Well, I'll see T-shirts now at the State House. One farm per kid. That'd be great. Chant. It's a good chant.
Ooh,
sounds good. Sounds like a chant.
Don't get me started.
Sounds like
don't rile the fire up. The fire's already on fire.
That's why you
don't make it worse.
That's why you bring the activists on the show, so then they can go do all that activism and go home and go to bed. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love to contribute. I'll always contribute. You know that. But I know what a pain in the ass it is. It's like whenever you do those things, you're like, I mean, it feels good to be there and doing it, but sometimes it's like you realize. Like when we have Jessica on the show, I mean, she'll be the only one there by herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, God, how rough is that? Knowing that just one person sitting in, listening to these fuckers talk, and if she wasn't there, there'd be nobody to document it at all. You know what I mean? It's like it's nuts. So, you know, and I think that's because of people like myself who are like, yeah, you go do it. You know what I mean? But. So anytime you can support any of these activists, please do, because that's fucking how your shit gets done. You know what I mean? And right now it's all lobbyists.
Well, me personally, Jessica and I don't get along.
I know you don't, but it's okay.
Activists.
It's fine.
No, I'm good. I support the 420 activists always and forever. Now, I do think if I could get people to come to committee and just spend 3 minutes testifying, you know, so the more opposition we show as a united front in Colorado, that would be I guess also activism in my mind.
Sure. I mean, and when it was, I guess it was 2012 or 11 or something like that, when I went and spoke and showed off basically what the thing that was the clincher. It was kind of funny too. It was like, I was like, okay, I got to go up there and speak, kind of put my 2 cents in, and like as a hemp, you know, company owner for 20 years.
When at the library?
No, at the State House, at the State Capitol. It was like it was like 2011.
Sorry.
It was like 11, I think, or something like that, or right before 2012, I believe. And then, but the thing that, and this is all because of Sam. Obviously, kind of knew she knew what to say. She's like, what you do is you bring your bulletproof jacket in, and you show that off, and you get all these guys like boners like instantly, and it was like it worked. I was like, man, that worked so good. I went in, and I said, yes, and I make bulletproof jackets out of hemp, and they were like, what? Bulletproof. Everybody was loving me because of that. I was like, that's all you had to say. And I was like, man, you really know how to grease those wheels up there. Just show them the old bulletproof. And every cop in the fucking room's eyes were like, yeah, we love it. We need it. Do it. Hemp. You know,
where are those bulletproof ones? I need one of those.
I think you do. You may be the one person who might need one in town.
I do right now. Small, please.
So, So what is it? So when's the next situation that we have to keep an eye out for? What's going down? When will some decisions from this thing come out?
Well, so yeah, Tuesday. Tuesday's the day. Tuesday's where we can kill it or it moves forward.
Wow.
And then it can't.
And is there a physical time and place for all that?
Yeah, it's at the state capitol.
Is there
it's at 1:30. 1:30, and all that information is on Grow Hemp Colorado.
Oh, good.
And I'll post it on social media, and you guys can also reshare it if you'd like. Just because this is also about marijuana side, so I don't want it to be like all hemp, although that's the side pretty much I'm on, although I fight for both. But this does impact perhaps marijuana and recreational. I just don't know exactly how in the long run either. So, you know, it's important for both sides.
Sure.
To know what's going on.
So, speaking of Cheesecake Lady, she just texted me. She's in the area. So look at that for an ironic show. That would have been. See,
get off the phone with me. Come on the show. Don't tell her I was on though.
Okay, look at that. What's this? What? Come on. This is what kind of community are we? We can't even. We'll squash any issues.
Let me just close.
Can't get two ladies on the show together. Two activist ladies on the show is tough. You know, it's like one of those. Yeah. Anyway,
let me just close with this.
Okay.
This would be the best idea for a fundraiser. I have the best idea. Do you want to know what it is?
Tell me.
Okay, so we all get in the ring. Like, there's certain people that, you know, we kind of box it out in the ring. Like, certain
with those
people
gigantic, you got to get those gigantic gloves, though, so it's not really like, we don't want people getting just clocked out.
Okay.
Those ridiculous gloves, little bouncy floor, you know, I mean, it's got to be a little bit comical, right? We can't get too vicious.
No, that's fine. That's
you want, because I know
that
you.
would be really good.
I can
people
already.
would love to see certain people in the boxing ring.
You would be an animal. That's why I know. I already
have 2 on my list. I got 2 on my list for sure. Maybe a guy too. 2 girls and a guy.
Yeah, no, and that would settle a lot of deals, though. We can do that. We can do that next. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Maybe we'll do it around 420 or something like that. We'll make it into an event, so then everybody can get their karma cleaning session going on. And take it out on each other with gigantic gloves.
Be the peacemaker.
You know, Ryan, who used to be on the show with us, the kid, he wanted to do a show like that where it was just like this, because he's like a little salty guy himself and gets into all sorts of scrappy problems with everybody all the time. So he understands. I was like, oh yeah. I think it's a very widely accepted idea in this industry. It's just very hard to get people to come. We actually had one point. This is a funny one. Tim Martin was going to throw down with Claude, right? Which was Candy Claude. Remember Candy Claude? Back in the day. And it was like, it's on, meet me at the Hood Lab, right? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, and then it was like, so I was waiting with Vinny and we got the whole thing ready. I had it all set up. I was like, oh yeah, if they get here, we got the ring set up. We got it ready to go. And neither of them showed up. So that's what happens when that shit goes down. You know how it is. And I was like, really? And then sadly enough, nobody else came down either. Right. So not a single person came down because it was like, see you there. I'll see you there. Bitch, you know, and I was like, man, this shit's going down or something. And it wasn't exactly word for word that, but it was like that. And I was like, oh, Vinny, you think this is really going to happen? And Vinny's like, maybe. And then we're like, all right, we better set it up because we don't want to like miss the opportunity to have Tim Martin and Claude go at it, because that would have been awesome. Didn't happen.
You're so funny.
Did not happen. So, well, cool. What we need to do is next time get you in the studio. And why don't you get Mr. Salazar with you? And that would be really awesome because I've already realized when we were while we were at that expo, I realized like, yeah, he needs to come on the show. And, you know, got him at the show. See, it was one of those things. Bam, you're on the show. You come on the show. You come on the show. I was doing that to everybody, obviously, because he's here. So I said it to everybody. I was like, you come on the show? And they all, hey, look at today. We already got 2 next. So, yeah, anytime, and especially if there's something that we really got to address and it's timely, it's even better, of course, because then we can light the fire under some of these people, including myself, to maybe do something and keep this fucking industry alive, because it's getting more mutated every day, right? It's going to be, at some point, it's going to be a shadow of the original thing that it was, and
I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, let's try to keep it out of that realm, and hopefully, well, we'll see. Maybe hopefully when they get these other guests on in a couple of weeks, and they have some great ideas. And if they don't, we're gonna fill their heads full of ideas. All right, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna do this. Now, but I think social clubs have to start here in Colorado for the rest of the country, or the rest of the country to kind of follow suit, because nobody seems to be doing any. Like Massachusetts sounded like it was going to be off the chain, and then all of a sudden, kibosh. Vegas, yeah, we're going to be the biggest, most everything, nah. You know what I mean? But they're controlled by the liquor board, so they're fucked. You know what I mean? You're never going to get them to budge on anything over there. And then Cali already has smoking places because they've always broken every rule possible. But now they have rules that really are rules. And so we'll see how that goes. I mean, hopefully grandfathered in because of the reality of people like, well, we've never had a problem and, you know, it hasn't been like a big issue. But
I hope so.
That's the problem with legalization in general is it just creates problems that were never there in the first place. You're like, that was never a problem. I don't know what you're talking about, you know? So we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, I just want descheduling. I just want it descheduled. I'm not really a fan of legalization anymore. I want it just removed from the schedule. So, yeah, so thanks for having me on. Okay. And I will definitely keep you updated for sure. And then you're definitely going to help me with the next hemp awards next year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm totally down. And like I said, he's not here today, but we do have a really awesome in-house video guy that would be able to make that shit pop. Because, I mean, awards, you know, you can make it really, really good. And I think also when you have such cool stuff, because it's like when you're talking about all sorts of ranges of stuff, it's not just like, oh yeah, it's the best of the same thing, kind of 9 different ways. It's nice to have some maybe a little bit of back video to show people what the hell we're even talking about. So you're like, what the huh? Oh, makes sense now. So for sure.
Yep.
Cool. I'm totally down.
Yep, it's going to be off the hook next year. All right, well, have a great evening, y'all, and thank you for having me again.
Right, for sure.
It was great talking to you.
Yep, see you in the future. In-house.
So, talk to you soon. Yep. So I got a fraud alert.
What do you mean?
Fraud alert. Say, guy Jay Cutts from Elusive Genetics. This is out of Michigan. Small guy, nothing huge, but you know, had his little thing going on, and got his name hacked by some UK dude, right, as usual. It's probably Logic or something like that, but some UK dude hacked him, and so obviously named it the same thing, Elusive Genetics. Contacted each other, basically trying to say, hey, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and they just said, you know, fuck you. So if you're ordering from anybody in Europe or some other smaller whatever, and they say Elusive, make sure it's not the UK guys, because they be fake.
Not real.
They be fake. Hopefully we'll find out what the hell real is, because we'll maybe get them on the air at some point.
How often does that happen?
How often? More often than not. You know what I mean? It's like it's to the point where, well, the problem is that now it's different, because now, like, imagine, you know, pre-internet, how long it would take for somebody to like get the word out to the same amount of people that you have if you've created some sort of a name, and how hard it would be for them to fraud you, because, you know, it's like it just usually at that point it's all word to word, you know, person to person, and they're really like, as far as packaging and things like that, no one sees it. But then nowadays it's like boom, 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 Instagram all day, you know what I mean? And it's crazy, because what I realized is that, you know, unless I have somebody standing next to me with a fucking iPhone 10 and a macro lens and run around and just take photos of everything in my room when I'm actually doing work, you know, doing things, then you're not going to be successful in the industry, as far as like, you know, and I don't give a fuck. It's like, whatever. I'll take some photos when I have a chance, but it's not like that's my first thing. It's like, actually my first thing is taking care of the plants. But right now, the way it's rolling is everybody's, you know, pretty much going for whatever's hot. Straight, you know, it's like my friend in Spain is selling Gelato 33 at his shop. You know what I mean? Just to think that's all the people. You know, and it's like, that's like, you know, my friend is doing the same cut in Rhode Island, and you just think like, okay, it just shows you how it's all name brand stuff, and it smells nice and everything. It doesn't yield very good, but that's pretty much where we're at also in the industry, is that people are finding one thing that's good, and it's like whoring it out, and then at the same, when you make a cut, when you make a seeds with that, your chances are like 1 in 495,000 that you're ever going to get that thing back. You know what I mean? Unless you S1 it, and if you S1 it, that's kind of like taking someone else's work and just fucking going like, whatever, bro. You know, that happened to JJ with Stardog, and a whole bunch of people. Happened to me a million times. You know, it's bubblegum. Like, if you look up a lot of my stuff, luckily you'll see a lot that's legit, but then there's companies I've never heard of, and so who knows, you know what I mean? And they don't send in original packaging anyway, then you just never trust them. So there's like guys from, well, like Mark Emery, for instance, who's famous, right? He used to buy from me. And not much. Like he came with a crew, you know, they came over and they bought seeds from everybody. So they didn't take a lot of any particular person, but it was like, all right, we'll take, you know, 10 of each from all your stuff, which, okay, it'd be like maybe 200 packs, you know, and then 4 years later, they're still selling it. And you're like, really? And then I'd check and I'd be like, well, maybe they just don't sell a lot or whatever. And have people call in and say like, oh, I'm looking in for sage. Oh, sage is one of our most famous, it's one of our most popular strains. So you're like, okay, so it's your most popular strain, and you've had it for 3 years, and you bought 10 packs. You know what I mean? So I don't think that really makes any sense. So
how do you protect yourself like that?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you can't physically protect yourself because somebody can always take your stuff and claim that it's the same by just, you know, taking it and F1ing it or F2ing it. You know what I mean? Like, basically, you know, getting something that might be close, but going to be all over the place. And if they use your name, theoretically, you could, you know, work on a trademark, but you can never take it to a federal level, so you can never really go. So it's kind of like they got you by the balls in a way. So really, what I always tell everybody is just make sure you put the word out through as many channels as possible that are documented, that people can kind of, like I always, back in the day before there was internet, I was always like, got to get it in print, you know, boom. High Times, try to get it in High Times, even though it didn't really mean a lot to me as far as like, oh my God, it's in High Times. It was more like, okay, at least it's in there. So people go, THC, this strain, okay, boom, it's semi-official. Even better was to get in books. I always like to get in books better because books felt, even though it was, you know, probably not much more, but if you go to court, you open up a book and you're like, look, here it is printed in this guidebook from, you know, this year, or this, you know, grow book from this year. It's even more official in a sense, you know. Mm-hmm. Legally, I don't know if that means anything, but just, you know, morally, I guess, or like, you know, showing the hierarchy of how you're the one who did it. And so, because I did that with a few different strains, it was like we trademarked Sage, we trademarked MK Ultra, we tried to trademark Bubblegum, but then Simon somehow got it from Serious Seeds, bastard. So, but you know, we trademarked all the ones we could, and some of them you can't because it's too basic. But if it's like obviously never used combination, like Burmese Kush was easy. Certain things are okay, that's easy, but never used them in a sense to go like never went after anybody, but it's just good to know. And now that we're actually in a situation where it's getting to the point where now you have legal weed, so almost, you know, when it gets really legal, then all of a sudden those trademarks, when it's federally legal, those trademarks are worth a lot, you know, because all of a sudden it's like, well, this is trademark for the whole country and Canada and South America, you know, so that's when you got to go to the federal thing. It can't be like, oh, you know, sure, take me to court, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know, now we can. So just got to spend a shitload of money to hold those things, and that's redundant, you know, especially if you have 20 strains, 30 strains, 40 strains, it's like, fuck.
And that's what the big companies seem to be like, just sitting there like you know, just watching everything.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely going to be some name grabbing and people using, I mean, I've seen my stuff hoard out all over the place, and I almost feel like I'm lucky that I'm not flavor of the month right now, because now with Gorilla Glue and all those things are just getting destroyed, you know, as far as like, you know, every single shop has Gorilla Glue. Every single shop, maybe it's not the right one, and you got to chase that shit around. And it's kind of like, I always felt the same, like when people would be like, oh, they got your heavy duty fruity at the shop, and I go there and I'd be like, this is like definitely not heavy duty fruity. You know, I have no idea what this is. Occasionally it'd be like, you know, even like a reverse where it was like, that's not Burmese Kush, but that's fucking fire. Like that is like, you know, or whatever. But it's hard to know because people love to, you know, you don't know what level they're at. You don't know if they got, somebody told them it's that, they wrote it on a thing and got all mixed up. And, you know, we've all seen so many, how many combinations can go. So when you get what is, you know, the real thing with, I mean, verification is going to be the next kind of level of like, at least with the breeders that are alive, you know what I mean? Like, or around still, or actually claiming whatever it is. I mean, like even skunk, skunk's a good example because like Rob Clark and Watson and those guys who were responsible with Cultivator's Choice to producing this skunk, I mean, it was a 3-way sativa, or it's a 3-part sativa and 1 part Afghan. So it's very not skunky by nose, but it's still a great plant. It's one of those things. It was an awesome plant, and it was kind of like, it's weird though because the name skunk before that meant like skunk. Oh, like that shit.
That's what I feel like we're chasing.
And now we're
all the old stuff.
We're all chasing. Yeah, exactly. And even the funny thing with skunk number 1 is that people who grow it out are like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome. And it's like, yes, it's a great plant, but it's also it's not the most, like, it's not coming out like a stamp, like boom, boom, boom. There's a structure that you see within it, and it's like big buds and really, wow, like awesome. But it's also kind of dated in a way too when you see it. Like now everybody's more used to Kush, more used to Diesel, how it grows. And those are like, so it's because they have, because the plants have changed so. Well, now they're so homogenized. They're starting to become more homogenized because so many people are using combinations of Kush and so many people are using combinations of sours and things that, like, a lot of times you'll get stuff where you'll put down a bunch of seed and get a lot of good-looking weed, but not much taste or variables between them, Luckily, because of that, at least I feel like it's like we went up a few notches, but we also lost a lot of cool shit, along the way. Mm-hmm. Even though theoretically, like if you look at a bag of weed right now, it's going to look brighter and more exciting and resiny than it did most of the time back in the 90s. There was still good weed, of course, but there was a lot more closer to, also there was less PGRs in the plants and stuff. And so now, like yesterday, I got some.
How do you feel about that? Do you mind me asking?
Well, I don't want to, I mean, naturally occurring PGRs, cool.
I'm talking about, just
but synthetic PGRs.
To talk about your achievements, and then having that as kind of the added a little bit of.
Yeah, no, I think it's like especially if you're going to grow for extracts.
For medicine, man, that's what I mean.
Yeah, or extracts especially and things like that are going to be
sure
concentrated. Like now you got PGRs in there, and you're going to that's like starts to get really.
Unethical.
Totally unethical and self-damaging in a sense because there's no way that's going to be beneficial. I mean, there's absolutely no possible way because we already know that PGRs are carcinogenic in their own right. Now you're going to put it through a butane extractor and that'll neutralize it. You know what I mean? No, you're going to bring it down to a level which is probably going to be super dangerous. Like I saw some weed yesterday that someone bought a pound and it was like, they showed it to me and it was like, I was like, oh, like PGRs right out of the gate because they were like tight, super tight, and machine trimmed. And he didn't know. He knew neither nor what I was talking about. He was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Oh, machine trimmed. Ooh, PGRs." He's like, "What?" And it was meant to be for bubble. And I was like, "This is absolutely not what we really want for bubble." You know what I mean? It was to get into that is going to be a nightmare. And we did it, and the yields were okay, but you could kind of. I mean, obviously, the thing I love about bubble hash is that everything literally comes out in the wash. You know what I mean? Like you do it, and you see what's kind of contaminants you got. You see what kind of, obviously different grades of resin, but you also get like the little tiniest details kind of pop up. You know what I mean? And it was like there was something wrong about it. You know what I mean? I was like, it's probably the PGRs. And it was just so hard to. So basically, the first one you don't even do anything, just kind of soak it and flip it like a bowl of cereal or something, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that yield not so great. And then the next one, big yield, but it was also kind of I don't know. It was weird to see because all we said is we want weed to make some bubble with, so we need some good resiny weed. And it was like, this is the best. And I was like, God.
Have you ever grown living soil with a few cycles under your belt or anything?
No. The thing is, my mom's she's so particular about
how she does it,
keeping clean and this and that, and so I've been trying to convince her for a while. So not really on any kind of scale or anything like that. I mean, there's been we do stuff where we'll go from indoor to outdoor, back to indoor, same thing sometimes, but you know what I mean. For the most part, haven't had it in one spot. But tell us more about your TLO.
Well, I guess that's the main difference is I don't really feel like it is TLO. I feel like that's kind of like apples and oranges because of the addition of the nutrient spikes and that kind of thing, where we're more just I guess we view it as like the stomach of the plant.
Right.
So the healthier we can build the soil, the healthier the stomach, the healthier the plant.
Sure, because they do all the work for it. And I mean, that's the thing about plants is they have an external stomach, which is the mycorrhizal zone and the rhizosphere juicing up, kind of like we are too. I mean, we are the same. Except we have an internal stomach, and that's all, your flora and your biome and your ability to break those things down and move them. And it's kind of crazy because people who get sick, it's kind of like you can always focus on that. And you're probably right, you know what I mean? Because it's going to be your gut. Because your gut's like your second brain. And it's actually weird because when you think about the whole, like, getting a feeling from your gut, it's pretty much a real thing because all of the serotonin is there. So it's like, it's kind of, you think of it as a brain thing and you're like, oh, no, actually it's all done there and it's transmitted. And so pretty awesome when you start to tap into the reality that we're like it's kind of like when you're figuring out plants and you're like, oh, okay. If you're not just following this and but you're actually watching, especially when for me the thing is if a plant almost dies, the best thing is to give somebody a plant that's like almost dead and see if they can bring it back. You know what I mean? Because that kind of shows you almost the green thumb more than start from a seed and kind of see, because sometimes the plant just does all the work anyway. But there's times when I've seen guys go like, dude, don't kill it, I'll take it, and then they take it and you go to their place like a month later and you're like, damn, looks good. And it's like they tapped into they saw they didn't overfeed it and they didn't overwater it. They kind of knew that could barely do what it's doing, and then they kind of ease their way up. And that's, I think, part of the whole living soil part that I like is that you let the soil do the work.
Kind of age, kind of just. I always like to teach the students that we're kind of pushing that snowball up the hill at first, so that by the time we go over that little peak there, everything else just kind of takes care of itself. The labor, the fact that you don't have to dump your soil every month and that kind of thing. And then on a commercial scale, that's a whole nother level of labor.
Got to give Uncle Andy a shout out. I thought I said in the beginning, Uncle Andy's boy, didn't I? All right, anyway, big shout out to Uncle Andy for bringing us to the attention of the fraudsters. I just got a text like, what? What? Did you even get a shout out, bro? Yeah, of course you get a shout out. Jesus Christ. All right. So anyway, back to the story. The thing is, I think it's awesome when shops realize it more than, because it's like they really need to. The only thing that's going to separate yourself now is just having better quality weed, really. And it's like like when you have such a huge space, then you don't have to worry about yield as much. You just have to you worry about your flow, and that you can feed your flow and it's not backing up. Because I think that's the biggest problem with Colorado is a lot of weed backs up, and if it's hydro weed and it's backed up, it's not going to taste good. By the time it hits the shelf, it's going to be just booty. Yeah. Whereas if it's organic and it hits the shelf and it takes a little while, it tends to, it can hold itself. It can hold its own a little longer, for sure. It's still rough because Colorado's dry as fuck, and so we're fighting against and like we were talking about earlier, we were saying and then they throw a Boveda pack in and they think it's all good, and you're like, no, now it just tastes like Boveda pack. You know what I mean?
What do you think that is? Is that just that funky?
It's weird because I think the biggest problem is that I've touched it before enough. You know what I mean? I've checked them out enough and got it. I mean, it's got such a a witch hazel vibe to it or something, where it's it's going in. I don't know. There's some the texture is not really. It's not liquid and it's not gel. It's kind of somewhere in between. And I think that I don't know. Just it feels like it gets almost like a plastic bag. If you put your weed in a Ziploc compared to glass, and it kind of gets that little slime. There's some little tiniest difference that's hard to even tell somebody, but it's noticeable, especially if you take the same weed, put it in a bag, put it in your put it in a plastic bag, roll it up, throw it in your bag, come back, take the same bud, put it next to one that was from the jar, and it's all just kind of a little bit mushier in a weird way. Even if it's in a dry environment, it's just kind of I don't know.
So you fell for the hype as well with that one? Because I was kind of like, I
never fell for that. I know I never fell for
Oh.
that. I just saw shops that were doing it all the time, and like they'd get them. Like when people would deliver pounds with them, and it was always like, ooh, like these things are gross. Like I don't know, and plus they have all these different percentages, and you're like, oh, this is 50%. Oh, dude, no. And every time it was an excuse that you weren't using the right percent. That's what I noticed. Like I talked to the Boveda guys, I was like, I don't really like these things. They don't really ever seem to set you up to where, because I like my weed to be crispy, not crispy, but like, but in Colorado, it's like you got to keep it a little wetter if you can, because it's going to get crispy by the time you fucking pulled it out. There's like a new learning curve, whereas in like in other places, you could do the opposite almost because of the fact that you're in a humid environment. You'd have it perfect, you pull it out and it would get wet. Here it's the opposite. I've never seen weed get wet again. No. Which is weird, because you go back to the East Coast and you're like, oh man, this is all of a sudden it's hard to roll a joint because it's like, fuck, but it tastes better. Same weed. You know what I mean? The exact same weed will taste better. Damn it. So we're only at the 2 hour mark. See how long these shows are? Fuck. He's like, this is long, bro. You didn't tell me.
Well, you do it every Friday, which is pretty impressive, man.
It is. For me, it's
be able to talk and just...
It's an excuse to know that I have nothing else to do except for this on this one day. All I got to do is this, if I can make it happen. And everyone knows it's Friday, and they leave me alone, that's a blessing in itself right there. I've already had to field 10 phone calls. Oh, shit. Speaking of which, CC, boom, did it. Okay, good. Just checking that her lift was, because remember her thing wasn't working here, so I was supposed to keep an eye out to make sure that I was going to have to get her a lift ride. And wow, I said, no problem while I'm doing the show. I'm paying attention to everything, and totally, oh no, my wife, she's trapped. No, she's all right. She's all right. No, didn't fall for the hype, and I think storage and drying is one of the most overlooked things in the whole.
Like an art form, I'm starting to learn.
It is
later in life too,
Well, it's just here. I mean, especially if you got a bigger crop, it's like you really got to be on point, because it's so hard to move from one end of the crop to the other. Because if it's perfect, it's not gonna be perfect here. You know what I mean? And if it's so you have to it's almost like timing fruit or something, where you gotta okay, it's better, even though it looks like it's a little underripe. By the time I actually get around to it, it'll be perfect, and you got to get on that. And if you're not, and with cure, that's the most important part, obviously. And it's there's some piss poor performing fucking people in town sometimes.
Some people really just don't even care,
and some people don't care at all, and some people have actually, the main key is to invest money into your dry room and treat it as an individual controlled environment, and not think that it's gonna ambiently be able to do anything, because it won't work. Because it's got to be almost like, you almost feel like it's pressurized at that point, you know what I mean? Because it's got air conditioner when it needs it, it's got a heater if it needs it, it's got a fucking humidifier if it needs it, it's got a dehumidifier if it needs it, and everything is set where it needs to be, and it just, you don't know what's going to be going on at that particular moment, but at least you know that the shit is solid, and then compared to, if you think it's especially winter to summer, I mean, it's different, it's like, and you can do it, but it's you gotta just live in that perfect place, which unfortunately we all don't live in the perfect place, But it is it's also becoming less interesting for a lot of people, because a lot of people are doing fresh frozen, so they just cut it, freeze it. They don't even give a fuck anymore, you know what I mean? And that's why there's freezers full of weed in Colorado now. It's nuts, literally. Walk-in freezers just packed, because people are like, what are you gonna? Because it does take up a lot more room. Now all of a sudden, you think about the volume, and you don't want to. You can't just go and we'll just squish it all. You can't. You got to keep it all as tight as as loose as possible. So it's you got overstock. But I think that's why I also think that the fresh frozen thing, it's great, but it's also kind of fucked up if people don't handle it properly. You know what I mean? Then that's one of those ones where it's like everybody's doing. That's all they're doing now. So we should get freezer stocks and freezers, because those things they're going to be selling like butane right soon. They'd be like, I need 10 more freezers.
So all the tools, all the tools needed. Yeah,
I mean that is one of the best parts about growing. I think though is collecting tools along the way. It's a good feeling. You're I need this, and I'm gonna, the more you use them, the better. But when it comes, I mean, obviously normal tools were always great too, but it's always sometimes it's like, oh, that's speaking of tools. I got that fucking electrostatic sprayer at the show.
Yeah.
That thing is badass, dude. It's weird because it's as you're spraying it, you can fucking feel a shock on you. You're like, I'm getting shot. Like it's like it can just the little tiniest bit, but it's like, oh, that thing's working for sure. Like I'm getting a little overspray, and it actually is like zapping you, but it doesn't spray very far. It only that little because now I need the backpack. I'm like, give me the backpack, but just the handheld one, which is more like a drill battery connected to it or whatever, the one that I got.
Yeah, I saw that.
It only sprays maybe about that far. So but the idea is that it all clings to the leaf, and it's a super duper. I mean, it's cool because those things make you want to go do your job compared to like pump spray or a fucking backpack sprayer. And I always use an atomizer because those are awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this thing is definitely, but now with the fucking new plant numbers and stuff, I'm like, wow, we got 12 plants. I can just use this little gun. It's not a big deal, But when you're doing hundreds of plants, obviously, that ain't gonna cut it, because it only holds a quart. So, whereas the atomizer is like 2.5 gallons or whatever. So that those things are.
Those things are worth the money.
Once you've used one, you're never gonna ever go back to another. You'll be like, what the fuck was I thinking? And you'll never get the coverage. Go through that whole thing. Yeah. Those are one of my favorite parts of growing is just fucking getting in there, and blasting them and stuff with just and just to give them some fucking.
You ever use any compost teas or anything?
Oh yeah. I was using theirs, the Buffaloam stuff, the big bags that they had. We've used the classic. What's that one? Bounty tea guy. We used Bounty for a while, and
he was the pumpkin guy for a while, right?
Yeah, and I think they all worked kind of together. Him and Ron Wallace and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, Bounty, the Bounty, and then there was another one I was using from Scott Ruby's. Gave me some stuff. It was pretty good. I mean, here's the thing about teas is like that to me is that's like the super treat for the plant. And you can just tell the next day they're just super stoked. And it's never exactly. And it's like a nice that to me is my favorite thing because it's gentle and it feels like it always kind of you never have a reaction really. Just bubble it properly. Is there any brands that you're?
I would say just mix it up. Like a Buffaloam compost, a Malibu compost,
sure.
Like a Ollie Mountain fish compost. Just always mix it up. I think diversity is key.
Yeah, because you also don't know really what it grabs every time. Because sometimes
it's definitely. I think Tad Husey coined the term. It's a shotgun approach. Mm-hmm. So you're just kind of. That's why spending the time to get those because some of those like.
What about Mammoth? What about Mammoth and all that stuff? What do you think about that product?
Well, we've just started to actually work with them.
Have you?
I learned more about them actually.
Yeah, I did. I got samples like at the show, and it stank terribly. It was like,
did it really?
Oh yeah, it's some stanky shit. Yeah. So I was like, it's got to work. It's got to work. It's sticky. But and they had a hydro.
That's what our boss was joking about.
If you look on the guide or whatever, it's like they have a hydro and a soil, and the soil uses a hell of a lot more. And so the samples weren't, and like now it'd be fine, but at that point in time, it was like putting a fucking fart in the wind or something. I was like, "How'd it smell?" You're like, "I don't know, bro. It was gone." It was like it was not enough there to do it to more than just one plant, for instance. And I was always in the like. By the time you're like, "Oh, we moved that one and it got over there," and who knows? So I was like,
"I'm sure they would send you They're really nice over there."
They're super cool. They're super cool. I just kind of like, and then it was just like one of those things where I thought I had this because I have so much microbe stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a pallet of microbe so I was kind of like, I felt like I was cheating on them because now I don't know if I can't say it's only them.
Sure.
And also on top of that, I don't know. I was just kind of feeling like maybe, even though like I said, shotgun approach is always good. There was a lot of redundant stuff. I was looking at the thing. I was like, wow, that's in there and that's already in there, and I'm using their whole line. And I mean. They do send me a pallet, and it's like, fuck. Now I'm really like, 12 plants. I got a pallet of fucking newts. I better hurry up. I better feed them. Like, they need 800-gallon pots indoors each. So I don't know. So when you're growing on the living soil, are you doing beds? Are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing raised beds in the commercial aspect.
And then what would be I mean, I've already kind of asked this to Jeremy and stuff, but what would be your minimum size that somebody could get away with, just because there's a lot of people who don't have too big of an, if they're growing their legal 6 plants or whatever.
I would say just get
about 15
like
gallons?
a 25 gallon.
25, yeah.
Because again, it's the stomach, so the bigger the stomach, the healthier the stomach. And again, I guess the main thing about this is there's really no shortcuts, right? So you do have to kind of take the time to build up that soil and kind of turn that process.
What's the best base, pretty much, you think, as far as?
I like the Sphangum peat moss.
Right.
And then obviously the compost, a little bit of lava rock, rice hulls, biochar.
Peat ever, or?
Yeah, a little bit of peat.
Yeah.
No perlite, though.
No. I mean, it's all going to float out anyway at a certain point.
Yeah, and I think it was Minnesota Nice was the... Have you ever heard of that guy?
Uh-uh.
He made a cool video back in the day. It was like a no-till video. Shout out to that guy, because it was an eye-opening video to me. It was the first time I'd ever seen... he had a little clone in a little tiny cup, and he had the cover crop going. And he was talking about how, the cover crop's pulling nitrogen from the air to feed the plant. And that was really eye-opening to me, where you don't actually have to feed nitrogen, because, that's how most people feed their plants and veg, is heavy nitrogen, big. And
right.
I think the Goldilocks approach seems to be where you can, improve on nature.
Right. And it's also like, people definitely overdo it in the beginning, and that's when you don't realize, it might feel like you're doing better for yourself, but the reality is the plants kind of they're better when they're on their own pace.
Sure, yeah.
And then also, I think the best plants I've ever seen in flower are the ones that were more dainty in veg, because they seem to really respond, whereas the ones that were that's going to be a beast never really would deliver. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, and that's usually because they're a little overfed, and then that means they have a harder time switching back, and I think there's a little misconception out there that people think that more, it's like baking, bake it 10 higher, it'll be faster, you know what I mean, and it'll be ruined. There's a real sweet spot for everything. So learning that is huge. What about, one of the things I think that concerns a lot of people is say, what if you have, it's great when everything goes great, right? But what happens when things go wrong? And I think that's my mom's biggest fear, because she first of all, we have all these people giving us food and things, and so if we have access to this stuff, for us it's kind of less of a cost thing, but more of a for her program thing, where she likes to take out everything when it's done, clean up the room, start over again, boom, get everything fresh. And when you do have an issue, if you have a bug issue or if you have some sort of mold issue or something, you really don't want to obviously use it and continue, especially if it's in a situation where you're in a closed environment. What do you do if that happens? Just unfortunately, you get powdery mildew, for instance, and you can't control it enough, and then you're like say it's close enough to harvest that you're fuck it, we're just going to run it for the next week, then we're going to cut it down, and there's active spores still in there.
There's no way we would just kill the room if that happened.
That's what I mean. So so that seems to be the big scary part for anybody who's.
I feel like that's where growers earn their pay.
Right.
And we should pay people
a
fair wage to prevent that. Are you familiar with the Dutch? After all that stuff with the hoop houses, they weren't able to use fungicides. So they really started to improve the calcium uptake and that kind of thing in the plant itself, improve the pectin within the cell wall.
Yeah, so it's thicker and harder for them to get through. And so, definitely it's and same thing happened here too. You see, or Oregon even worse, or it's even tighter. This now they just found in Azamax that there's a bunch of bullshit too. So
I feel like you should know that, right?
I was going to say, I never liked Azamax anyways. I was like, cool. But classically, there's some unlabeled things there, which,
I even got fooled by the Guardian. Did you ever use that product?
I totally got fooled by Guardian. I thought it was awesome.
You guys use that?
Yes. Yeah. No, we all got fooled, because we can all blame Joe Canapoo for that one. But no, we all were like, wow, this is fucking awesome. It's going into my program. I love it. And then when that all shit went down, it was also a little weird, though, because I don't think that the product that they put in, which was ivermectin or whatever, I don't think that was actually illegal. I think it was because of the labeling that was the problem, and the shit worked really good. So I'm like, how come nobody later didn't just do an ivermectin product and then try to run that through the fucking MED? Because for some reason that shit worked, and ivermectin is the most used fucking not even fungicide, most used worming agent for horses and cattle and stuff. So they sell it by the fucking 100. Like you can go to like a cattle place and there's a whole aisle of ivermectin, and I'm just looking at all the different percentages in it, and I'm thinking like, wow, I wonder if it's just this that was the magic bullet in that fucking product, because it seemed to be, because after that they made it without it and it kind of didn't work as good, and then they got pulled anyway, so then the company folded.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to help you after you lied to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So they was like, I don't think that's going to happen, but the formula without it didn't seem to really work as good. So you're like, okay, is it really just the ivermectin? Because if it is, go make the ivermectin shit and just let it. Because I don't think it's a big deal. In India you eat it as a fucking pill to kill parasitic worms, and cattle use it for obviously the same reason, and they got all sorts of pills and injections and things, and so I'm like, okay, this stuff seems to be like pretty rampant already, and I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world compared to fucking russet mites, because that's the thing, is that did work for that, and that's crazy. Because
I saw on Instagram a few months ago that the Soil King, I actually don't know that gentleman's name, but he was talking about he started a program where he injected one of his grow facilities with russet mites, and I just couldn't imagine. Yeah. Like, you gotta be on another level to be able to do something like that.
Just to figure out how to.
Just to start to.
Yeah, that's crazy. I
think Mammoth P. One of my friends up there, Mill. I think he started to at least start doing some studies with spider mites. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to see. That's a smart gentleman up there. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, as weird as that, ever since russet mites, spider mites don't even seem like a thing anymore. It's sort of like
that's what we teach our students.
It's the chlamydia now of sort of thing. Yeah, that's just like chlamydia, bro. It's just an injection. So it's not AIDS or anything. Russets are like
Wash
AIDS.
It right off.
You're done. Or it's like cancer or something. But yeah, it's just rough because it's. Especially once I mean, I had to deal with it at an old place, and I've seen them, plenty of times, and it's like now it's like, oh, it's really on my radar. It's almost like the first thing I look for because I've dealt with it. And like one time I had a guy who brought me some CBD clones, and it was exactly that. He's like, I got to get them off this farm. These guys, all right, bring them by. I was like, they don't have any russets or nothing, right? Oh, no.
They never do. That's what everybody tells me. Of course,
and I could see them as the car was driving up. Like, they were in the back of the car, and I was like, oh, those definitely got russets. I was like, don't even open your doors. Just go and dump them somewhere, you know what I mean? And I was like, bring them to the other side of the thing. I'm going to cut a cut off of each of them. I'm going to put them under, I'm going to dunk. I'm just like basically treated those because they were like, oh, these are the last of the last of the last.
Amazing cut for you.
And it was CBDs, and it were like super crazy extremes, and they were like, so it was like, okay, I will try it, but it's not going anywhere near anything. It had to stay all by itself, and it was like just treated on a regular and tripled down and everything possible, throw everything we could at it. And I mean, they came out clean enough that I put them outside up top and kind of let them do their thing, and they looked okay, but it was one of those, indoors you're fucked, you know what I mean? Like, you get them on your equipment and they lay dormant. And it's weird because they seem so engineered. You're like someone sitting around going like, what would be the worst thing we could ever do? How about that they eat the resin? They came from
the East Coast, I believe.
How about they eat the resin and after you harvested it? That's what they do. I mean, that's the crazy part about it. You can go into your safe and they'll be fucking active in the safe on the weed. Yeah. And someone will go home and roll a joint and then go to their plant. You know what I mean? It's just like, is that evil?
Yeah.
Evil. Because you know how it is, like certain other ones, like, you cut the thing, they're going to all die. But these are like, no, we're good. We just chill out and start eating on your resin. And back in the day, it was my friend from Cali. He spotted them in around 2009, I think it was, or 10, which is pretty long time ago for those. And he didn't know what the fuck they were. And they were but they were a little different. He's like, they're like orange worms, dude. They're like little orange.
Like when we used to do consulting and stuff, it would really be like, you'd
see them.
They considered like really knowledgeable grower until they really started coming on the scene. Until that like little copper, like that scene in Blow where that chick's going.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like the first time I saw it. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, once you see it in the little nooks, you're done. Like the real when it gets like that rusty, and then you start, oh wait a minute, those are those little and then the tips, and then the curl, and then you're like done. Yeah, it's disheartening. It's one of those things. That's the thing about growing. I think that's one of the hardest parts is is I hate looking under scopes because I hate looking at shit and seeing like, oh, like then you start to think about the room and like, oh my God, they're everywhere, you know. And spider mites were one of your first ones you deal with, and like I said back in the day, they were like, oh my God, you got spider mites. But I don't know, almost like whatever, you know, I could deal with that. I haven't seen, and then of course you never see them very often.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's predator mites and compost teas and
yeah. And if you have healthy plants, it shouldn't be an issue, but. I've seen enough people who didn't realize what they have, and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, that's like every day on the internet. It's at the right time of year, and you're like, "Oh my God!" Like another person, and you just see like everyone loves to be the bearer of bad news. Like Russell. Like 900 people will tell him it's russets. It's like I'm pretty sure he understands it's russets now. It's russets for sure. Russets, bro. Russ, burn it, russet. I was like, yeah. Every comment is pretty much the same, which is like, burn your house down.
There was this guy.
Shit's fucked.
He had a really fancy background banner at the NCIA seed to sale, and then he had a cool like microscope kind of looking thing, and then on the leaves, without him knowing, there was a bunch of thrip damage.
Oh yeah.
So we walked by there just to be nice, I was like, I'm not trying to, but do you know that this is? Are you? Actually, I asked him, are you a grower? And he said no, and then I just told him what that was.
You're like, good answer, bro.
Yeah,
because if your dad just said yes, I was gonna tear you a new.
Well, no,
I
know. It's like, man, what a mistake to make it a.
Wait a minute, what is it? The air cleaner guys?
No, it was
because there was guys like that too who were doing Bionair. You know those ones?
I think I've seen those guys.
They're like two
Indo Expo guys.
Well, I don't know if they were. I don't know. I didn't really see them this time, but I've seen them before. They, basically these guys were like at the show, two dudes standing next to like a thing that was like going through, and it was. I think it might be the same thing where I was looking at it, and I was like, and it was supposed to be the stages of powdery mildew because they were showing like how they can clean it with this Bionair thing, and I was like, well, that's fucking spider mite damage. That has nothing to do with powdery mildew. Like it was like, that is not a stage of powdery mildew. That's spider mites. That's thrips. It was like 4 different infestations and then powdery mildew. So I was like, you guys don't even know what you're showing. Like, so it was
you have the money to go to the NCIA show and you don't have the knowledge enough to.
Right. And that was really like.
It's like a $30,000 fancy. I mean,
is it the same thing? It might be the same thing.
Maybe so.
It wasn't an air cleaner?
I think so. I mean, they just. It seemed like, how a lot of those bigger kind of shows, it's like the company's so fancy that they really just have like papers and
Well, the other one that one that I was telling you about that was in Vegas, that was huge, the 600 booth one, they had like extraction equipment with valves like this.
Yeah.
I was like, who the fuck is doing, like, what is that? Like, I was like, yeah, and I was like, you guys are not really you're just hoping that we're that far ahead. We're not.
Apex company seems to be the ones that build the ones where I'm like, Jesus, how would you operate?
Top step above them.
Everything can be changed at the so it's almost like a very artistic expression with.
Yeah, it does. Well, another guy that I know actually from here who was showing at the show there, like on the last day, he was like, "Come check out my thing," and I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm so tired. All right, I'll come look." And it was actually the one thing that was like, and it wasn't. It was definitely like taking all the fun out of everything. Like it was the opposite of that. It was like a square thing, and you pull up the screen, tell it what you want to do, and it will fucking do. You want BHO? Boom. You want this? Boom. You want that? Boom. And it was all really like plug and look like McDonald's. You could work at McDonald's or you could work at a fucking hash lab. Either way, that was it. It was ready to go. Boom, boom, boom.
I think you have to have that so that you can run it 24 hours, right?
Oh yeah, this thing could.
Otherwise, you have to shut it down.
Yeah, but it was just like crazy because I was like, okay, so and it was pretty. I mean, it definitely was not cheap. I think it was 150 or something like that. But it was one of those deals where, yeah, this is like, you can now because. And the funny part was the guy's answer to somebody, because somebody was like, oh, why the hell do I have to get one of these and do, and then he was kind of like on the end of his day, and he was like, well, because when I sell this to your boss, he can hire somebody for $15 an hour and fire your ass. That's why, I mean, it just straight up told the guy. Like, I was like, oh shit, yeah, maybe I should think about that. Yeah. But it is like that, I mean,
you never know who you're talking to at those shows.
Because it was really like, the guy had a big attitude, and like, he was the artesian hash maker, classic example of a guy like, yeah, that is. I mean, we didn't see what it made, and he invited me to come the next day, but I was so beat. But it was like, depending on the quality of the material coming out, if it has a less of a variable between like good and the bad, which is possible because that happens a lot of times where the artists, blame the equipment for something. Oh, dude, blowout, freaking ring blew, whatever. Yeah. But the reality is like a machine that's designed with computers to run at a certain parameter is probably going to end up staying within a tighter thing, which is the future. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, we are going to steer away from that. Where, and also to get like I went and looked at I've looked at some labs and spots and been like, I mean, it's a far cry from an open tube under a tent possibly, but still nothing compared to what's out there. You know what I mean? And just like, yeah. So it's an interesting industry. It's fun to see, but it's also kind of like, I think Colorado's like ground zero where we can kind of tell what's going to happen nationwide. And
you think it's kind of taken that reign from Amsterdam?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, and thinking of it as an American, I mean, it's not not in the tourist way, again, like not socially, but mature in the sense of this is where we get our weed, this is where we grow our weed, this is where we transport it, this is how we sell it, this is our tax money. Closed loop, you know what I mean? In that sense, yes. Because Amsterdam is like, we buy weed on the back door from some illegal fucking Albanians who, like steal power from the fucking bridge company and run a big giant op underneath a thing, and I mean. Then so there you go. That's the beginning phase, and then coffee shop sells it, claims half the taxes. The other half go in the, it's just like there's such a, mess. And there's no accountability. There's no cameras. There's no MED. I mean, there's their own weed kind of people that cruise around, but they're not necessarily only, they're still just cops doing their job or whatever.
Right.
And, it runs in a weird way for the last 40 years or whatever, but otherwise, it's not a real market, Still always had this like, oh, we're gonna close one eye. That's their whole deal. Like, we close one eye. We're Dutch. Just meaning, like, do what you want to do, but we're every so often we see what you're doing. So every so often we're gonna come in, to grab what we want and take some extra tax money from you, unbeknownst to you, because And the thing that's crazy is, the first thing you realize in Holland is it's such a controlled place that is like. You'd be there, selling weed to guys or whatever, and they'd be like, "Yeah, the Dutch, they know everything. Oh, the police know everything." So I was like, it was just common knowledge that they probably know that you're there. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, kind of like a weird feeling, but at the same time, they never really did much, And then over here, it's like we pretend like we think it's the same sort of situation. Now it's in a weird way because it's all digital. So it's like, you can hope you're not on their radar, which most of us aren't, and there's really, less reasons every time to be on their radar, hopefully, because things get weirder. You gotta hope there's always weirder, worse people than you in the area. You usually are. But
I moved here from Georgia, so the first time I was able to go to the 420 rally here in Colorado, we were over in the corner. We wanted to smoke a blunt, kind of still feeling that you got to hide what you're doing kind of thing. And the cops were over there, so I was really hesitant to smoke. And it blew my mind because the group of guys that I was with told me, no, those guys are here to protect you for this day. And that...
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Colorado definitely...
it's on the forefront. It's always been on the forefront.
Well, it is the landing pad for a lot of people from the East Coast, from the South, from everywhere, coming to like their first taste of American freedom right here, in Colorado.
Quality is the first thing the shit we used to have to hustle in Georgia and stuff was just
right. And then now you're here and realize that like, oh, there's much better quality out there too. So it's like we're just a step.
Well, it's also like, wow, you don't really hardly know anything about.
Well, I mean, there is. I think obviously you tapped in with more people after being here, but in the beginning when you first get here. When I first came, it was strange, too, because I would go to the Greenest Green, pick up some weed up in Boulder when they were open still, and it was, like, weird because I was, like, even though I'd been for 20-plus years in coffee shops in Amsterdam, and it was, like, but it was never really legal. Here I was in America with fucking prescription bottles that, definitely felt like a trap, you know what I mean? I was like, this is too... Like, I was sitting in the car, and I was having almost like a little bit of an out-of-body weird high because I was like, oh yeah, this is great, and then wait a minute, I think we're gonna get busted. Like I had the vibe, like, oh shit, they're just setting everybody up. You know what I mean? Like now we're all on the list, and wow, you know what I mean? It was just like weird, and then he kind of goes away. And then you kind of watch that every single new person that comes through kind of goes through that phase for a little at some point, like where it's just
going to the grow shops
just
and
a little weird,
watching you.
Yeah, just a little weird, you know. And nowadays it's like I just feel sorry for the grow shops more than anything because I'm like, man, Amazon fucked your world up. Now nobody, unless you want to buy dirt, there's really no reason to go there. You know, for some people, I mean, I still work out of shops just because I know the owners and I want to freaking support them as much as possible, and they support us, so it's part of the deal. But for the most part, the average Joe is like, oh well, shit, can have it here by Tuesday, and I won't have to leave the house. And you know, and if you live somewhere, some places it makes sense because I mean, there's no reason to drive 25 miles to get something if you could have it 2 days, you know, and you didn't really need it, but you're like, 2 days, same price, delivered, you know what I mean, compared to like making a trip for it, which we've all done. Like, shit, like I need this one thing, and like whatever, you know, you'll go on, and of course, whenever you go there, you buy it, you get home, and you're like, fuck, needed that too. That's a guarantee. I mean, that is a Home Depot run. That is a Home Depot run for me every time, like. Because I hate lists, so I'll get there. I'll remember it, and remember everything, and building it in my head or whatever, you know what I mean? And then it's like, the thing that goes on the bottom, like, so you mean we can't do anything until, I loved back in the day when it was 24 hours. That's the thing. They don't do that very often anymore. I think in some places they still must, because in Cali it was awesome.
Out there, but
it was awesome when I first.
That was definitely the Wild West back then. You know?
It was like
we walk in there and the guy would set a gun down on the table and it's like Jesus Christ. It's like 3 a.m. You know, and he's just like, "Don't try anything." You're like, "Yeah, no shit, man."
Yeah, like I think the first time was around 2000. I don't know, mid 2000s, and I went to L.A. and I was like helping a friend, and he's like, yeah, we need a fucking ventilation thing. And I was like, okay, cool, we'll do it tomorrow. He's like, no, bro, we'll go do it right now. It's way easier. It's quiet. And we went there, and it was like, this is when all the weirdos come out. Like, who is in the Home Depot at 4 a.m? You know what I mean? It was all weed and weird. Like, I remember seeing these two kids, like, right when we walked in the ventilation aisle, there's 2 other kids there, and they're all, like, trying to, like, figure it out, too. And I'm like, oh, those guys are weed guys for sure. You know what I mean? It was just like, you could see it was definitely when the guys who don't necessarily want you to know what they're doing are there, you know. Wacky. Gotta love it. So, Georgia, what part of Georgia?
I grew up in Snowville, and then moved out to Savannah for a long time.
How big is the first town? Small, or?
It's pretty big.
Oh,
I'm sure it's huge now.
Right.
Yeah, Atlanta is kind of like it's changed so much.
It's such a crazy place when you look at it like from above too. Like it literally is like where all the highways just blast out in every direction. So you know that's like.
And it runs from Florida all the way up, you know. So there's
it's the spot. It's one of the spots. You know what I mean? It's pretty much like there's fucking a lot of action going on down there. I had a good friend who was growing a lot of purple back in the day there and just destroying it because it was like that is all they wanted.
It's hard. It's really hard to get, or maybe just me in my life back then, but it was really hard to get dialed into anything consistent.
Yeah. Well, the funny part was I was always come back from Europe, and then. Because I'd meet people over there and they'd all be like super, oh dude, every time you come here, you just hook me, you know. And then I'd be like, oh wow, that's cool. So I have a friend who lives really close to you. Then I'd hook them up, and it'd be like, you know, would have never happened if that guy didn't come to Amsterdam and walk into my store one day and tell me like, oh, just buy some seeds from me, and I'd be like, oh, you live, you know, a mile from my cousin or whatever, or just friends or whatever, and make those connections. And it was easier for me to go to a town and have a couple good killer connections than anybody local because the locals were so fucking protective. You know, this is not so much anymore, obviously, but back when it really counted, you're like, okay. So it was always a bonus because I mean it's great if you can hook people. To me, that's like just like regular. It's like when you're hanging out with somebody and they don't have weed. Your job is to get them high. That's how I feel. Like that's kind of the
especially if you're the cultivator. I mean, come on.
And if you're
what does that really cost you?
Right, nothing. And you know, the same kind of runs true with a lot of stuff where it's like I think got to kind of like got to take care of your peeps whenever they're and but when it's on the other side and you're like, oh man, I need some weed. impossible. I can't fucking find like almost. I mean, not obviously if I'm with my own people, but like if it's just a random stranger.
It took me a long time. I feel like for people to want, because we started growing out aeroponically. I don't know if you've ever. So
I used to be a GH distributor for a couple of years.
So you got it, yeah.
I had the tubes and the rainforests and all that. I went for every bell and whistle. That's why I think it's good. Right, I think it's good to do that because you kind of.
I've come full circle for a while.
That's exactly what I. Sure. I mean, I didn't. I mean, and again, like I didn't even go as full circle as you, but I definitely have, realized along the way for me it was like, fucking dripper, fucking sprayer, or some technical thing, and I lost like something enough that it really hurt, and I was like, fuck, I just should have just been on. Like I had that a few times, enough times that I was like
the littlest thing.
Like cocoa, I had the same problem. Like I was like, I grew cocoa in the late '90s, and it was like, oh, this is it. This is the best because it's like a little bit like hydro, a little bit like soil. I felt real comfortable in it, and then I noticed that all the weeds started to kind of be very similar, and it was very like it had to be cocoa food, couldn't be any other. You had to get locked into some program. Mm-hmm. And I used Canna for a long time because they were like kind of the best Dutch guys, and they actually would analyze. You could send them weed, and they would analyze it for you. So I was like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of like a bonus because they were the only guys in Holland that did that. Like as a regular service, they still at the trade shows always go around and bring a testing thing, and you go to them to the beginning of the show, and then they come at the end of the show and they'll give you your fucking lab results. And that's like the only guys that will really do that for weed people at a reasonable price or whatever. So kind of got stuck on their formula for a while. Then Bionova, I worked with I worked with all the Dutch things and kind of moved around. But the problem is like they really are just A and B and a little bit of, they kind of had a few other products that they came up with, some Bud XL or whatever, but I always felt like it was like painting by numbers, you know what I mean? And it doesn't really, that's not so fun, it's like want to learn how to paint, right?
Yeah,
sit
absolutely.
there, fill the line in. Oh, what is the color? Is it green? Oh, you know what I mean? And that's how cocoa.
You do it. Week 2 is XYZ. Week 3, it's just.
Yeah, and so the thing is, the thing is, then your food. I mean, then your plants all started to like house and garden. Is this house and gardens? Because it tastes like house and garden. You know what I mean? Is this that? Yeah. And actually, I never used house and garden because they came out later.
That's what I started off with the aeroponic system.
And they were then they became
to be the hot shit with the aqua flakes and all that.
Right, and they became because of their price point mostly, and because of the fact that they produced big yields.
Yeah.
But.
And you could grow Blue Dreams back then. Everybody wanted that strain, so it was it was a win-win, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And well, sure enough, they're gonna want Blue Dream again. I guarantee you. It's like even though
like we want the skunks from back in the day.
Exactly. Even though we're bagging on it, it's like there's so many guys out there.
You ever grow a skunk? Man, that's
not
shit.
Skunk. No.
Everybody who's like,
Dream.
There's a lot of guys. It is very like in the sense of the way that it grows, very big and rewarding in that sense. And some people just go like gaga over it. And it's easy. I mean, the thing about Blue Dream, and what reason why it works so well, in my opinion, is because the storage of it was really good. Like you could sit on a 100-pack of Blue Dream for 6 months and open it up, and it would still taste okay.
Well, and people would ask for it by name, right?
Yeah.
People that didn't know anything about. Mm-hmm. It's like the girl that you used to date back in the day that would talk about that one Tim Tebow or something. You're like, she knows the one NFL star. That was Blue Dreams to me. Where people would be like, yeah, but do you have Blue Dreams?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the problem as a grower. The problem is that you don't like. Okay, you're gonna grow Blue Dream, and you're gonna go, and we're all gonna come to the table, and it's gonna be like maybe a little different, but at the same time, it's like kind of unrewarding compared to.
That was another like ton of fake cuts.
For
everybody had Blue Dream all of a sudden, and that was supposedly a cut-only strain.
But it does cross pretty well. I never actually put it into any of my things, but I've seen a bunch of different crosses with it that I've been like, no, that really is. It's a good base plant. It's just kind of like for me it'd be rough because it's like, it's like I can't use that as a base plant because everyone's gonna be like, what are you kidding me right now? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I think I grew it once. And it was like, oh, wow, this thing did yield really well. And it was in a tiny pot. It was like one of those, like, in the corner plants, you know what I mean? And it just, small pot, good yield. And I was like, I could see why people like this, you know what I mean? But then it was like, I remember it's like, man, the smoke,
So what are some of the genetics that are wowing you these days?
I mean, I tried wedding cake and all those kind of things, and I can see the sort of like visual thing that people go for. I'm not super impressed with. The problem is, I feel like with all the cookie crosses and all these things, is that they kind of all fall into a certain direction where it's kind of like they still feel like they're too OG or related in some direction. Like it doesn't come outside of a
finished.
Well, it just doesn't come out of a pro. It doesn't come out anywhere where I'm like, oh yeah, that is such a unique. Like especially because I'm going more for like intake, outtake. I like it when it tastes a little bit. There's some variables. It's not like exactly the same and or worse when you exhale. I mean, it's like sometimes you get them where they taste good on the inhale. Like I smoked not some weed, but some hash the other day, and it was funny because it was like fresh frozen bubble hash, and it tasted exactly like you kind of thought. It tasted good, and then it had a weird funk to it, and then the aftertaste was kind of good too. So it was kind of a weird. Went through like this phase, but that middle phase was like a watery, because it's made with fresh frozen trim. Of course, it's going to have watery when you burn it. It's going to have, and especially if you do it on a nail, because the nail always is kind of weird with water extracts. Has that weird. So occasionally you get it where like, wow, that's perfect. Like it didn't just left it, but a lot of times it's like it leaves this little water drip on your palate. You're like, ooh, kind of weird, moldy or something. Not even moldy, but like dank, like the bad dank, like basement dank.
Damp. Yeah.
Dampy, yeah, in that sense. And so, I don't know, it just depends. Like, I haven't really, I haven't seen stuff that's wowed me so much. It's been like, in Cali and stuff, I try things that are decent, but then again, Oregon seems to be where I get all the most unique flavors. Like the people that I meet out there seem to not be so pigeonholed into one direction, and there's a lot of Bodie stuff like his Doctor Who and things like that I really like, and the TARDIS.
I finally got at the Indo Expo. I finally got the holy grail for me was the Goji OG.
Nice.
Official. Because speaking of fake cuts and stuff, there's a lot of, especially before I was starting to educate myself, there were a lot of people going around trying to sell his seeds, but the bag never looked right. The seal never. Yeah. It always was.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really. Well, it's funny because I mean, it's like he's like the least hypey guy when it comes to packaging and everything. It's just like full.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah, and you'll see like when he pulls out a bag, holy shit, dude! There's like a zillion of them in there, and he like, and so there's not really a continuity to it where you could say like that's I mean, it's easy in a sense. It's kind of easy for him to get copied, of course, but he's got a lot of people out selling them for him, so it's kind of like it's hard, and you never know. Sometimes you think it's fake and might be real too. You know what I mean? It just might be. It's one of those like it's such a non guaranteed. It was like it could be. They could be folded over this way. That's possible. It could be not readable. That's because I had a couple times where I'd be like could barely read them because of the way they folded them like on the one spot. You know what I mean? And the guys are carrying them around a lot too, and it's just a fucking. The worst was the Capillator or whatever the guy's name was, right? That he apparently like left a roll of his stickers, which all his packaging is a white Mylar bag with a sticker on it. So all you have to do is find white Mylar bags, and now you got.
Right.
And he's selling packs for $2,500. Yeah. So imagine if you're like, I sell them for $1,000. I got a couple and. Do that with 100 people and you just made $100,000.
Just fly around every little state
from a sticker roll that he left, and I was like, you can't leave that behind. If that's your entire thing,
and you just got to get the same mask now too, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You get to find the mask, and you're like roll into the show, and you're like, holy shit!
It's such a weird thing to be like. I don't want anybody to know who I am, right? And then be the only dude wearing a mask, so everybody, we were with Denver Normal's booth, so we were like right next to him all day. Huge line and everything, and you could hear people as they were walking by, like, "Who's that? Who's that guy?" Yeah. It was like extra
it worked.
Curiosity.
See, it was working. That was the thing. It definitely did.
So you don't think he really wanted to hide his identity? He just wanted to hype it, make it extra.
I mean, obviously, I did want to hide it, I guess, but it's kind of like I don't know. It's just to me, it was a strange situation. But I mean, like I said, I can't knock the hustle there. I was like, holy shit, he's got a line like 45
hell of a hustle.
You can't knock that. I was sitting there watching it.
45-minute long wait, and people buying like $1,000 worth of seeds at a time, and just like holy shit, damn, that's a cranking. Well, it's great. I mean, that's
they're buying a lot when they pull their wallet out from here and not from the back pocket,
right?
Because it's like, here's the real.
Well, that's the thing is it's good to see that the seeds are becoming appreciated again. I mean, it's just a matter of, hopefully everybody gets what they paid for, and hopefully they get the reason why we like seeds, and they understand it, and it's not like people aren't taking the piss too much. Because I mean, like I said, it's pretty easy if you and I wasn't there, so I didn't see it go down. But if somebody grabbed that roll of stickers and then made a bunch of fakies or whatever, that's the problem with this industry. Is there's a lot of that going on too, because seeds are easy to be a fucking douchebag with, and that's kind of where I always, like in Amsterdam, I was always feeling like, oh god, this is like one of those things where get this in the wrong person's hands and they're gonna just abuse it to the no end. And it's been done so many times, to the point where, like, I'm not even like things that I have that I got from people. I'm like, maybe you never know, because it's not like unless I got it from their hand, I don't even know, And it's like, I mean, Holland is classic because it's a fucking pirate place, and the people there don't give a fuck, and so sending them to America, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? That was the mentality that I heard around me all the time, and I'd be like, oh, this is so painful. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares, And that was kind of the reason why we and DNA and all these other American guys who went over there kind of like separated ourselves a little bit, because we kind of tried to bring in, what was real if we could, but you never know. Like, again, guy can tell you, when I can come in, now we have Phylos, and we can actually sort of go back and, get things in a galaxy and see where they are, which is great. But at the same time, if it doesn't match up exactly on the genetic thing where it's supposed to, but it's still good weed, then it should just be ushered in by proxy, you know what I mean, at that point, and create a new thing or something like that. But the problem is when you get just the like the Gorilla Glue syndrome, I would call it now, you know what I mean, where it's like, oh, it's frosty, it's white, and it doesn't say, put that on there and then send it to the East Coast or whatever. And that's how people, that's what's fucked it up, is like a lot of times people don't see the person who smokes their cannabis, and if you're in a place where you're like, you got your own people or whatever, you can't be like, one day it's the sweet tooth. What are you talking about? It's not that has nothing to do with that. Okay, well, it's whatever you want it. And that is the.
Or we see dispensaries that'll they take it off the shelf, show it to them. Oh, that's fantastic. Put it back up on the shelf.
Pull out a little bag.
Then grab one.
Oh yeah.
The old switcheroo, the old bait and switch.
That's the popcorn switcheroo.
Yeah, the bait and switch. I mean, that's
watch this hand.
Well, in Holland, I have to say it was a lot worse. In Holland, the problem was it was like one kind of weed, and it was just like the whole 10 different drawers, and they'd be like skunk, Durban poison. And
you're looking
whatever. At the same fucking thing. You know what I mean? Shiva, same. Maybe like and over there it's all amnesia and power plant. Those are the two plants that it's just prevalent. It's just too cut. Well, now it's more than that, because now there's a bunch of different amnesia. There's an 8-week amnesia, 9 to 10. There's all different. And in the beginning, people would pay by time. So you'd be like, oh, is this a 10-week? All right, I'll give you that much. And then everybody's like, oh, wait a minute, I can grow the 8-week and tell them it's a 10-week and get more money. Just again, everything to chisel up. That's the thing about this whole game, is that it's like crazy when you see how big it's gotten, but you also know that everybody's also trying to hustle their little chisel here and stuff, and so it makes it kind of hard to ever really believe anything as you go to a new shop. You're like, you almost have to always go in like doubting, but then occasionally it's the opposite, where you're like, holy shit.
I hope in time that most customers do really have the knowledge that maybe us in this room do.
Well, it's the problem.
What's going on back?
I think it's always been a problem though, with like. You have certain people that you would expose to certain qualities, and you would never try to cross the streams on them, because the minute they fucking get like, oh, you never showed me that before, and you're like, oh, how'd you get that? Oh, is it your thing right here? Oh, no, I didn't know you. Oh, that's it. They're done. I want that. I want that now. And then, give them that once. It's going to be hard to go back. And so, yeah, it's one of those. Maybe we want to educate them, but part of us is like, oh shit, once they really know what's going on, it'll be even harder to find good weed, because they'll be like, shit. Because, I mean, when you see like lines at shows like that, like same at Emerald Cup, like when you see lines, you realize that I guess I'm not getting them today. You know what I mean? So if it was the same for weed, not that we're out buying weed very often, but for the average, the more people that get educated, and the more the harder it will be to get. Because really, I mean, every single person I talk to in Colorado is like, "There's no good weed." It's like, okay, there is good weed. Yeah. It's just there's not a lot of it. You know
and there's so many variables to that. Like some people, what's good weed to you?
Sure, and I mean now, but the problem is right now prices are at the point where people aren't going to treat it the way, when you're getting $900 a pound, do you really want to put it the same inputs as if you're getting 1,600 or 1,800? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if you can afford it, So that's the one good thing about Living Soil, before we got 10 minutes left, but good thing about that is the cost. Like, what do you average your costs, think, per plant, per week?
Pennies on the dollar.
Literally, like, right? Literally. Because with Dragonfly Earth Medicine, they were saying like $50, did they say? Yeah. Not even? No, $5 or something stupid. Cheap. It was like $5 a plant. I don't know, something dumb. How much was it, 5 or 50?
They're on another level too, though.
No, it was like $5 a pound is what it was.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Wow.
About $5 a pound.
Hats off to them.
So that's pretty awesome, because when it's $900, you're still doing good.
Did you see their Pure program? We've been starting to look into that, where it's like a kind of like a clean green certified.
They talked about.
Yeah, they were on.
They were on the show recently.
A couple months ago. Yeah,
I think that's pretty cool. Somebody that I guess the community respects and admires.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Doing something like that.
Yeah, they're definitely on the right tip with that. I mean, it's hard to stay within those parameters if you're depending on where you live. I mean, some places, Colorado, not too bad, but I mean, if you're obviously, if you're in the city, it's going to be extra hard. But it's like you can see that they're onto the right sort of program, and it's very Cali based. It's got a real Cali vibe. But it's Duke's using this system here, loving it, and I mean you can see the literally proof in the pudding there. He like opens up a jar and it's like bam, what the fuck is that? And he turned many heads there, which was awesome. Yeah, I think the future for a lot of places will be that kind of combination of knowing that they can do, if you're going to do it like artisanally and batch numbers and keep it like legit, you get a lot more return customers because then they understand, who's behind what they're doing. I feel like it's like when you have a small team and you can actually promote the team a little bit more. Sure. Instead of it being just like some faceless giant building, which is like get weed, stamp it out, it's like. So I think that the literally organic approach and also the sort of slow down mentality of it is super awesome because you're not, it's not like about industrial pumps cleaning with UVs and recycling. Recycling the system every so often, and then once in a while getting full bore fucking problems because of that. Because you're always running on a fine line at that point. Whereas, you're. But at the same time, I think that's my biggest fear has always been A, bugs, B, mildew and things, and what it would do if I got like hundreds and hundreds of gallons of soil.
Why do you think if you use living soil, you're going to get powdery mildew? Is that
No, I'm just saying the occurrence if it happens on. I just feel that's the thing that scares people.
You think it's easier? Is that?
I think if you have healthy plants, you should not have powdery mildew. That's obvious. But at the same time, say you're just ignorant to the fact that you didn't grow from seed and you got clone and you got it and you're fucked. Yeah. And you put it into your setup and it's all fucking perfect and you've been balancing it. That's the hardest part because you create something that's so awesome, but at the same time delicate in that one way. Like if you contaminate it in some form. But I think if you noticeably, like when you have really healthy plants, especially like when on soil plants, it kind of seems like you can't fuck the pH up. You can't. It's really hard almost.
The microbes really take over. That's why. I think when you almost have to really understand the soil food web and all those things that my knowledge comes from like Dr. Lane Ingham, Jeff Lowenfels.
And we were at that level. Did you see him at the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking I have his card now, so I was like, probably should get Jeff on the show again.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point, it's been a while.
Yeah, probably a year.
The other
he came on with his last release, The Fun Guy.
Yes, but we can always have him.
Oh yeah, there's always enough going on there.
No, and again, it's like feeding the thing that feeds the thing that feeds the. That's kind of the secret, obviously. And then I love it when I like the idea of like I like the idea of a worm farm a lot, just because I feel like that's
we just bought one too.
Did
we
you?
really
that's
trying
awesome.
to position ourselves to where we can control what we're putting in there. So we also just bought another mushroom farm as well down in
That's sick.
Springs.
Yeah, because I mean, then you can actually like kind of have your different castings. You know, you're like, oh, these are my phosphorus, or more flower based kind of thing, and these ones will be working for veg better, and it's nice. You ever heard of Earthly out of Rhode Island?
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Okay, we
had
them on the show at one point. They're we did. They're worms.
During the winter.
Worms. But anyway, they had some pretty
Red Wigglers, or
I think so. Yeah, and they were, but they won some awards or some bullshit. I don't know. Well, listen to the show, you'll figure it out. But no, I think it's like simplicity is the key to a lot of things, and that's what makes cannabis super awesome, is that you can keep it real simple and you can make really good results. You can complicate the fuck out of it if you want, and sometimes get good results. But I feel like you're guaranteeing yourself a bit bigger and more successful crop if you kind of give in a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, do it, man.
Well, it doesn't. At least on the synthetic side, it doesn't seem to me that people really brag. It used to be like they would brag about how much they spent on their newts,
right?
And that obviously doesn't equate anymore if we can't sell the product for the profits.
And the crazy part too is I realized, like it was like wild abandon when you'd go to the grow shop because you didn't give a shit because it was all profit. Like, oh, this will make me more money in your mind, you know what I mean? But at a certain point, there is a tipping point where you're like, so how much did I spend?
Or you shake it and you're like, this is water.
Yeah. I like that paleo from that the paleo product from what's that one company called? This that we used to do that does the Sea Green guys. You know what I mean?
Oh, paleo. You're talking about the author of the Sea Green?
No, Sea Green, the product.
Sea Green.
You know the Sea Green product?
I'm not familiar.
Oh, it's awesome. It's like a
kelp.
Primordial Solutions, you know that company?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Okay, they have a product called Paleo, which is their bloom formula, and it's literally like you pick that thing up, it's like a fucking concrete block. You're like, what is in this stuff? I mean, it comes out like super thick, like it's beyond molasses. Put it that way. It's like you feel, and you're like, okay, I guess, and it's hella expensive. It's one of those things where you go like sticker shock. I don't know, a couple $100 for this liter, or this gallon, and you're like, what? But actually, no, maybe not. No, it's not that expensive. It was the other ones that are really. Oh yeah, it's a Sea Green that's normally so expensive because you're like, what? But then that stuff actually was a little more reasonable because you used more of it. But yeah, definitely like giving them concrete or something. They're just like, well, okay, this got to, and it's 100% organic. But the Primordial Solutions is a pretty awesome foliar that you can make, and or also add to your res, and it's all algae and pure. It's like super foamy, but it's like the foam part is if you are really rapidly sort of mixing and you leave, it's literally like bad Brady Bunch episode where they washed all the clothes and fucking poured all the soap in, fucking flooded the entire house. You're like, whoa, my god,
foamy.
It is serious foamy, but it feels good. I think that's kind of like one of those like, ooh, very proteiny or something. There's something active going on. Because that's the other problem too with hydro is when it's really, to run it properly, it should be really clean because you don't want to have a bunch of residue and things. But then it's kind of like, I love giving plants stuff that, not that I necessarily would want to drink or eat, but it feels like I would want to. You know what I mean? You're like, that fish guts is really good. You're loving that. You know what I mean? There's certain things that you can just tell that the plants kind of thrive on, and plants love stinky stuff too. Just like us.
Wasn't that how the Native Americans took their soil to the next level by putting fish, back in the day?
Sure, under every corn, throw fish under there, or in every little area. No, and
it is pretty simple. It's just I feel like we got conned, trying to learn our education
There was another product that was really interesting that these guys out in California had. It was dehydrated seawater. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that either, no.
Dehydrated
water.
About
so much stuff.
Dehydrated seawater.
I love the idea of dehydrated water. You just add water to make more water. That's what it is. You just add water to the water. And
it was dehydrated seawater. And it's not a pure thing. It's an additive, so you're not going to add you're not going to just mix water back to seawater and create seawater and feed seawater to the plants. But the amount of nutrients that were in it because it was completely balanced, and it was interesting. I mean, it was quite interesting because if you think about kelp and you think about all the other products that are sea based, and you're like, okay, well, they're all, it's all there, and so technically the idea was that it literally it's a balanced mineral additive that contains everything needed for life. Obviously, otherwise
trace minerals. I think it's 62, right?
They couldn't live if they were in it. So I don't know. Interesting. It definitely.
How can you beat that?
Yeah.
Anytime you say dehydrated water, you're pretty much like, I got a farm on the moon for sale, and dehydrated water company. If you want to get into that, super dope.
I got this bottled water that you should be feeding your plant. You
just put a little bit of water. Just kind of put a little regular table salt at the bottom, and just be like, here you go, buddy, go for it. Wow, this is awesome. That tastes just like the ocean. A little nori in there or something, just a little fishy vibe. I think it's worth a shot, though. I wouldn't mind just I'll try it. And it's from Josh. I mean, he carries Buffaloam, so he's
right on.
He's one of your clients, actually. The LSD.
I'm going around.
He's in Santa Rosa.
Bridges again. So anybody that's out there that had a problem last time, please reach out to me.
I got him to buy this is the guy that I got to buy that I had to get the argument about getting. So I think I got him to buy like a truck full basically to bring to California to sell at their company. So I'll get back at Josh for you, and I'll make sure you keep that connection.
Appreciate that, and we'd love to have you try Soil Alive again if you're.
Yeah. Actually, it's perfect timing because I'm literally. I quite literally, and now I'm down to like, 6 plants at 65 gallons. So do the math, and if you want to help me out, make those go. I've been trying to convince my mom to do living soil, so if you want, we can use that as our starting point. That's a good. It's on a fucking farm. It's literally on a farm, so there's no better place to be doing it.
And it's
pretty badass.
It's on the road. Yeah, it's on the road down.
Cool. Let's talk about that in the future. Thanks for coming on, Bryan. We're at the 3-hour mark. So you got to give us any websites for people that you want to say.
Yeah, and your classes, right?
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to Jace. He's our Korean natural farming expert. Started tonight.
We did a show on that too recently.
Yeah, we had Chris Tuck.
Right on.
Trump.
Chris Trump. How do you mess that up? That's an easy.
What'd you say, Chris who?
Chris Tuck.
Tuck? No, that was Steve Tuck. We had Steve Tuck, and then we had Chris Trump.
Well, you guys meet so many people. I don't know.
I know.
But it was Trump.
That was, come on. You can't forget that, can you?
No, that's why I kicked in. I was like, oh, yeah, that guy. It's a Trump episode.
But he was awesome. And that whole Korean farming thing, I think, seems to be like all of a sudden, right after that show, it was like, man, all these other people it's the hot new ticket. I think, too,
with the sugars and really, like, that's the next level. And for me, I'm still a student at that level. So
that's cool.
It's cool to, take your skills to the next level.
Yeah. No, it's I love it because it's, and then the Japanese and Koreans and things, they always had much different idea of gardening, and they have a limited space, and they're really on point with their rotations and things, and we can learn a lot from that for sure. And
absolutely,
I think our style, if you think about it, is just fucking lock and you know what I mean? It's very sloppy. It was very, very crude and rude.
It's a very narrow education.
No, so it's awesome. Thank you, KT.
He's got the classes, right? So we're with some of the classes. Quickly go run through this.
So with Jace, it's a hand-on demonstration. We want to keep it at 15 students per class. Next week we have Carlos and Alex. So it's really focused on the education aspect. And then, of course, we have monthly events.
Where do you do those? Oh, is that all Cultivated Synergy too?
The classes are actually at Commons, so we could, cheat. It's not cheap over at Cultivated for like a class setting. For events, it makes a little more sense.
Sure.
But we want to try to keep it as cheap
how many people are you talking? Because we got spaces here that are for rent, and it's very cheap and easy, and you can fit 15 people in a room like this, no problem.
Well, we'd let you know.
Okay, let's talk about it in the future because it would definitely work out.
And I do want to give a shout out to to Denver Normal. We're having Lobby Day on the 21st, and we are fighting for the people that have basically smoked cannabis maybe on a Tuesday night, came in on a Thursday to their job and got random drug tested.
Right.
So we're fighting to
you guys
get them a better job, probably.
What about those? What about the
for
other
the people that are 9 to 5?
You heard about the last two? They arrested 2 more people on Sweet Leaf. they've got the investigation deepens and widens. We got 2 more bud tenders. I'm like, they got 2 more bud tenders.
Like, going for the big fish.
Couldn't they go like up a level? Like, actually,
it's not surprising in an industry, man. If you got the litigation team on your side,
yeah,
that's crazy. What matters.
It's crazy though, but at the same time, I think. Now that the hype's all over, it's like it's no big, and people will realize it's like this is kind of bullshit. I don't think that. I think those people they're gonna lose their job, that's for sure. But they already did. But they're not gonna like. I think in the long run it should work out because I think people are gonna come to the. That's like one of those things where it's pretty damn obvious that they are not the ones that need to be.
Yeah, but
taking the beating on that one. So.
Well, stay neutral.
No wills. Okay, and finally, so what dates for that again? Did you just say?
Lobby Day is the 21st.
Okay,
so please reach out to us if you'd like to come. And
that's at the Capitol, or that's?
Yeah, that's at the Capitol.
Awesome. See, this whole show is about going to the Capitol and doing something.
And then Buffaloam will be coming out with a cannabis soil as well that I'll be heading up.
Yeah.
With a couple other people around town.
You gonna have like stoned-looking buffalo on the thing, or what?
No, it's more like the whole aspect of like the Phoenix.
Come on, you gotta make it stone.
You gotta have everything match.
No, you should have a hat like a flat bill on a buffalo. That'd be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Everyone knows it's for stoners, and it has a beard.
I'm glad people are starting to know it's for stoners.
The bearded buffalo. How about the bearded buffalo? There you go. That's it. That's for the stone. Oh, we got a beard on that buffalo. That's for stoners. Or some tie-dyed, whatever, something. No. Well, cool. I'm glad to get you on here. And any other websites?
Just check us out, Green Farms Education, 303 Organic Cannabis, and Buffaloam Official.
Nice.
Instagram seems to be king for us.
Yes.
Appreciate your time.
Of course, it was great.
It's definitely an honor to be on here, fellas, to be honest. I mean,
it was fun. It's fun.
I've sat on my couch and smoked many blunts or trimmed countless pounds listening to you guys. So
nice.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's our core audience right there. The guys trimming weed on the couch, sitting around.
You can only listen to so much music or comedy,
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts now too, and it's like whenever I'm pretty much now that I trim, I listen to podcasts. It used to be always music, the news sometimes, but then I'm like, yeah, podcasts are good because you don't have to use the internet. It's already in your phone. It's like boom, boom, boom. It's convenient. If you want to listen to 3 hours of rambling, you can listen to us every Friday, 3 to 6.
3:30 to 6:30.
3:30 to 6:30 now. Yeah, 3 to 6 is like I want you waiting, and then I want you to hang out longer and see how long it goes. But when we do it on time, then no one's there. That's the problem. So there you go.
Especially not us.
Well, definitely not us. All right, I want to thank KTI for making it down.
Appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I heard big storm coming or something, right? Or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big storm, and I think there's supposed to be more, so we'll see. So.
Oh, don't get trapped down here, bro. Miss out.
No.
I want to thank MTI also for coming through all sick and dying. Look at him. He doesn't even look barely sick. Not smoking very much, though, I noticed. Very little smoking going on over there.
Can't take it easy.
Yeah. Let's see. I got T is back in the studio out there. Shailene, Paul, Bookman. Oh. And, big shout out to my beautiful wife, Cece, and little Nick on his 4th jiu-jitsu class today, so I'm sure he's going to come home and choke me out. He basically did the other day. He got one hand here, got the over thing, got it underneath, and I was like, oh, all right, you really are choking me right now. So, it's going to be fun. And they're trying to convince me to go in and do. I'm almost 50 years old. It's not the best time to start jiu-jitsu. I could be like,
I think it's like the perfect time.
Is it? Is it the time?
Especially wrestle with your boy.
I already do that. But I kind of feel like I shouldn't go because then I won't know anything, and he'll just really get the best of me. So I'll be like, dude, this is real, bro. You got me.
This is a pressure point, Dad.
Yeah, watch this, Daddy.
For sure. All right. Well, hopefully I'll come back next week. We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Adam Dunn Show, and we're out of here. Right. C'est la vie.
Practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden messages.
We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensibilia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.